All right, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right, everybody. First of all, am I frozen? Am I frozen again? Please don't be frozen. No, we're not frozen. Camera's working fine. Okay, so, first of all, let's celebrate the return of One Piece. That's a big one. Let's celebrate. Everybody happy? I'm happy. I think we needed this. We had too long of a break at a point that how do I explain this? We took a break at a point where we had too many I feel like it wasn't a great stopping point for a break, you know what I mean? Because it left us with debates like how strong are the Gorosei, right? Like how like everyone picking that stuff apart. It left us with no Zoro and Sanji stuff, so like a lot of Zoro and Sanji debates I think early on in the break. It was 46 minutes, not 40. I changed the stream time. Come on now. Bro, Luffy is not in Gear 5th right now? I know that. Why are you telling me that? Are you responding to somebody else? Alright, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, because we're happy that One Piece is back. I'm still mind blown that we had a 3-week break out of nowhere. In the middle of a climax of the arc. Has that ever happened before? The other times that Oda's done a long break, it's been like post-Wano, post-Marineford. This one was kind of out of the blue, right? When was the last time we had a long one? And Aranami says this chapter was definitely not worth the break, lol. Because I don't think it was like a planned break. Normally the breaks come at a point where, you know, where we're ready and set for it, you know? Things have hit a certain point. The Red Rock? Yeah, the Red Rock is the most... in the chapter... Okay, so there's actually genuinely a lot to break down amongst each of the Gorosei at this point. I think we can say, almost without a doubt, that Saturn was the weakest of the Gorosei. Saturn is not a good example of how strong the Gorosei are. I think Saturn is supposed to be the weakest. I know that was speculation before. I think most of us can agree that Saturn's the weakest. I also don't know if there's anybody who's pushing the Saturn agenda who cares that much, if he's like the weakest or like the fourth weakest or so, like the fourth strongest or something like that. Kaido agenda is coping hard. You guys know I've been on the Gorosei agenda, right? Recently. And for the record, I change with new information. I change my views. I used to, before we got the Gorosei form reveals and everything, I used to say I don't think the Gorosei are going to be as strong as admirals and stuff. Now that we're at a point in the story where we're actually getting the portrayal of the Gorosei and like their role, what they're supposed to be to Imu, stuff like that, I've started shifting over to saying I think it makes sense that at least the top brass of the strongest Gorosei would be Yonko level. I'm not going to go so far as to say this chapter alone means that Warkiri is stronger than Kaido, right? I'm not going to go that far to say that, right? Because it is looking like it's more and more possible that it's supposed to be the same. Because if you just stack up the things, right? So, on the one hand, we've seen very, very little of Warkiri, right? People were giving him flack because he got pushed back by Dory and Broggy, but the problem is we don't know how strong Dory and Broggy are supposed to be, right? We did the top 30 list. Chad voted top 30, and I think the most egregious pick was that Dory and Broggy were voted. I don't think they made the top 30. I personally think that the Giants are likely a lot stronger than people think. It seemed as though chat believed that Dory and Broggy were not like first mate level or anything like that. I think it's possible. JWP, thanks a lot. Boo, hiss, Morj, late, tomato. Sorry. I read the chapter off screen. Off stream. I was considering reading it on stream, so I would have been a little bit earlier. But I don't know. I like reading it myself. Tony69, thanks a lot. Not gonna lie, kind of getting annoyed by the food old man thing. The food old man thing is kind of crazy, because it's basically like Luffy can't fight for 10 minutes, right? Because he just got... we already did the food thing, So it's establishing that Luffy can fight for... I mean, technically... Okay, so order of events, right? Luffy-Kizaru fight happens, X amount of time, right? Luffy gets tired, old man mode. Luffy eats food. He has to eat a lot of food, because he eats some food that he's given, then he goes over and finds Vegapunk's fucking vending machine, and then eats food from there. And then he's set, right? So that should be it. I don't know why Oda felt the need to say... Because then after that, he starts fighting Kizaru and Saturn, right? As soon as he starts fighting them, like pretty quickly, Saturn calls in the other Gorosei. So it feels as though he should, like, you know, he should be fine, right? It's basically establishing that Luffy can't even fight for 10 minutes. I remember with Gear 4th, it was the initial time limit he had against Doflamingo was 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes and he runs out. 20 minutes and some change. This is 10 minutes. I just don't get why it's so crucial that Gear 5th Luffy has to be limited in that way. Because we didn't need the food. Like, when I say we didn't need the food break, what I mean is basically narratively before, right? Luffy's fighting Kizaru. You kind of need the story to hit a bit of a lull, right? For the Kuma flashback to happen, for the tides to kind of turn against the Straw Hats. Saturn's emerging as this big bad boss. He's looming over everybody. The Straw Hats are kind of fucked for a moment. So to do that, like, there's a reason to take Luffy out of the story. And then you're shifting the momentum back in the Straw Hats' favor once you're giving Luffy food, and now he's back in the flow of the fight. In general, with the breaks that, like, you know, even like Luffy versus Doflamingo, right? That time limit back then, it makes sense. You're hitting narrative pauses in the battle in terms of, okay, Luffy's fighting Doflamingo. He couldn't quite finish him off. Now Oda thinks it's a good time to set up this sort of dramatic build-up to Luffy going Gear 4th again and defeating Doflamingo again. But it just doesn't really... I don't get why he did it here. I think maybe the only... I actually don't get why he did it here. Maybe it'll become more clear as we go. Josh Nesbitt, thanks a lot for the 5. By using the Red Rock, I think Oda is trying to say that the Gorosei are a step up from Kaido, not stronger, just a bigger threat. I do feel like it just makes sense that the Gorosei are supposed to be a bigger threat because these are the final villains of the story, the Gorosei and Imu, as far as we can tell. Unless they're defeated here, and I think it's becoming less and less likely that they're defeated here, right? So if they're the final villains of the story, and Kaido and Big Mom, like, once all is said and done, they'll have been defeated, like, chapter 1040, 50 or something, and then we've still got hundreds and hundreds of chapters to go with, like, it's just narrative, it's just how fucking storytelling works, right? You just keeps go. It's not like we defeated Doflamingo and we're like, all right, well, that's it. Now everyone from here on is just going to be weaker. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, the very next arc, Cracker, Katakuri, they're stronger. Cracker, I understand, is debatable, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Isho says, Warcury armament making Gear 5th Luffy rebound is insane. I don't think he was in Gear 5th. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure he wasn't in Gear 5th. I do have thoughts on the Red Rock. Let me get through these real quick. Ender Anami, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 19 months. Reminder to finish Fire Punch. With how many bailouts Luffy is getting with food recently, you'd think Sanji's 2-year time skip training, which involved food, would somehow come into play, lol. Oh, dude, that could be really good, right? Like, how come we haven't seen that in a fight yet? Like, Luffy in need of some food and then Sanji cooking him up some food? I think that is a damn shame because, you know, Whole Cake Island, such a big deal was made out of the idea that, you know, I can't become Pirate King without you, Sanji. Luffy refusing to eat any food that's not made by Sanji. That was a big deal in that arc. And now you've got situations organically coming up in the story where, like, let's be real, in the vast majority of One Piece, there is, like, arc to arc, there's never really situations where Sanji's cooking actually saves the day. Whole Cake Island was pretty much the only time that I can think of. But it would be nice to incorporate Sanji in these sort of moments where Sanji's cooking could be, like, plot relevant, you know? Just in Luffy's battles, he could whip up something for him. I think that would be great. I think that's a great idea. Let's get the stream likes to 100 real quick. All right, let me catch these membership chats. Lars Sears, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for a month, man. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed the last podcast. There'll be another one coming out, obviously, end of this month, start of next month. What Venus Juro said about Bonnie felt analogous to how they'd view the ancient weapons. Children with power to destroy the world like Shirahoshi. Feels related to Frankie's arc in Water 7 as well. I do think that, yeah, I think that there is a lot of relevance there. And I feel like Bonnie how do I say this? Bonnie's existence will likely be heavily, like, it's going to be a sort of Nico Robin thing, I think, again, where the world government is going to be heavily focused on capturing Bonnie once again, right? Heavily focused on that. And I think it's just cool that the Straw Hats have a few, like, walking, like, potentially world-ending forces that they've just got casually on their crew. I like that a lot. Lewis Summers, thanks for bringing a Yonko tier member for 13 months. Yeah, the Gorosei stuff is really making me question why the Marine/world government were so scared of Wano/Kaido. Just send like 2 or 3 Gorosei and it's wraps. No? I made a whole I made a whole video breaking this down. I made a whole video on it. I'm going to post it right now. It's not because they couldn't. They've made it very clear that they can. They specifically said, like, they like the balance of the world as is. They're cool with it. It's good for them. They specifically say in chapter 808 that it's now getting to a point where it's kind of... I have no idea where anybody got the idea that they're scared of Kaido. That's not a thing. They've never expressed fear of any of character. They specifically said that maybe it's time for a great cleansing. The equilibrium is getting a little... equilibrium is being thrown off a little bit. It's getting a little bit too difficult to control. Maybe it's time we wipe the board clean. They have the power to do it. They're talking about a great cleansing. They know that they can wipe the board clean. They know that they can do that. That's established. It's very clear that they can do this shit. They just chose not to. Because it's just how the world's been for 800 years. It's been good for them. Hold on, let me post the video. What is it? Again, I'm not going to go so far as to say, like, individual Gorosei are definitely stronger than Kaido and Big Mom. I think we need more to see. I think people are being reactive. Like, but I do think it's definitely... I think the door is definitely open for it to be possible, you know? Because just because Warkiri is harder than Kaido, like physically tougher than Kaido, that alone doesn't mean that he's stronger, you know? There's other aspects, like... The thing is that it's a hard comparison because Kaido's... Like, the biggest things about Kaido are that he's... Like, what everybody hypes up the most about Kaido is that... he's such a tank, right? Like, he's such a tank, he can take so much damage and keep going, and he can fight all these people at once, etc. But Warkiri's just strictly going to be better than him at that, right? Because physically, he's, like, just straight up 1-to-1 tougher, right? And then 2, even if you are able to damage him, he has seemingly infinite regeneration, right? And on top of that, I personally, like, just straight up Conqueror's Haki, Warkiri has the most impressive, like, straight up Conqueror's Haki release outside of maybe Shanks at what Shanks displayed from outside Wano reaching Green Bull. But outside of that, Warkiri's got the largest, like, quantity of Conqueror's Haki that it seems like he can release. So, I don't know. I think still remains to be seen whether, what these Gorosei... Like, what someone like Warkiri... Because right now, a lot of it's, like, just them trying to run away. So, like, what about, like, standing and fighting? Like, what happens if Luffy's, like, in Gear 5th just trying to go toe-to-toe with Warkiri? Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months. Hey, Morj, I love the parallel between Venus/Mars and Zoro/Sanji. One is cutting the enemy, and the other one is going on his own mission. I think that that's definitely... fuck, that is a really, really cool little holy shit. That is a really cool little parallel, if you think about it like that. Because that has kind of been Sanji's thing always, that he skirts off to do his own thing, right? And then Zoro's more frontline oriented very often. Obviously, Sanji can also be frontline oriented, but I'm saying their natural tendencies you often see. Zoro's more straight up. Sanji's more gonna go do my own thing. So again, I like the idea. One, I'm liking what I talked about earlier, which is... the other video I put out, which is the Gorosei's final opponents. I'm liking the way it's playing out, which is I had the belief that it's going to, like, the lineup of strength of the Gorosei is going to correspond to the planets, with it being something... And I'm going to catch supers in a second. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, I like the idea that it's going to go in planetary order. So Warkiri being the strongest, then Venus Juro, then Mars. I think that stuff follows. Then Jupiter, I think, has been the least impressive of the for the 5 Gorosei so far, outside of Saturn, who we kind of mostly all write off. So I like the idea of that. I think that possibly holds up still really, really well. I like the idea, and a lot of people are penciling in Mars as Sanji's opponent, Zoro as Venus Jura's opponent. I believe that Warkiri could go to Dragon, so Warkiri Dragon, Zoro gets Venus Jura, Sanji gets Mars, Jupiter is anyone's guess, and then Saturn. I still think Saturn goes down here, but let's wait and see. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Sean Easton, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, I just got a promotion. Hey, congrats, dude. You're the smartest, or not you're the most consistently... You're the IT guy for the stream, so I'm sure whoever promoted you knows what they're doing. Good content, good chapter. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Sorry I haven't been in chat. Started working out and stream time overlaps. Come on, man. You don't need to be working out. You just got a promotion. You got money. You don't need to work out when you're rich, you know? I'm sure you're a millionaire or something like that at this point. Pay people to work out for you. Chamo Milk, thanks a lot. You know, there was a really good Arnold Schwarzenegger quote, right? There's a really good Arnold quote that actually was very, very interesting to me that changed my view of a lot of things. So, like, let me pull up the full quote. I think it's a great quote, and it really puts into perspective the idea of what working out and building your body really, like, the value to it. A well-built physique is a status symbol because it reflects that you worked hard for it. No money can buy it, you cannot borrow it, you cannot inherit it, you cannot steal it. You cannot hold on to it without constant work. It shows discipline, it shows self-respect, it shows patience, work ethic, and passion. That's very, 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 very true. Because, so for example, no matter how rich you get, no matter how privileged you might be or whatever, no matter how easy your life is, the one thing you cannot get out of the blue is a in shape fit body. You can't just get it's one of the few things in life that you cannot get outside of working for it yourself. You just can't. It cannot be handed to you. Anybody who is, physically fit, strong, muscular, good shape, whatever you want to say, they had to put in a ton of time into that. Consistent time, discipline, etc. That is something to be proud of for sure. So, I think gym bros, I'm not a gym bro. I'm a light, I work out when it's convenient for me. But gym bros get a bad rep for being dumb gym bros, etc. But you cannot be physically well built without an insane amount of time, dedication, and effort. You just can't. So it's not something to, I don't know. Something to think about, right? I joke, you got money now, you can just whatever. But working out is one of the few things, you cannot pay people. You cannot pay your way to just having a good body. I mean, liposuction and stuff exists, but that'll get you skinnier. That's not the same thing. Camel Milk, thanks. JWP, thanks for the 10. Wild how I've seen so many theories about Sanji versus Jupiter, how he's secretly a Vinsmoke, how he's the god of agriculture. Now Sanji fans see that he's a worm and just throw that all out the window. I'll say this, I think it is fair. I understand why I personally think it's fair, simply because we knew almost nothing about the Gorosei, right? We were for so long, the Gorosei, what do you call? Wait, what? Okay, I don't know. I think that the Gorosei for so long, their line, how to explain this? Their train of consciousness is so similar, and the way they speak is so similar, and there had no differentiating characteristics really outside of one guy has a sword, so it's got to be Zoro's opponent, and then one guy kind of looks like Sanji, so let's say he's Sanji's opponent. But there was nothing really there to make these characters, what do you call? There's nothing really there to tip us off about these characters and who they're supposed to fight, how strong they're supposed to be. So I don't. If Sanji fans are pivoting over to say, well, no, he's not going to fight. He's not going to be fighting Jupiter anymore. I don't think that's a big deal because it's just it was already based on almost nothing. I think Mars is way cooler, and I think the idea of Sanji finally getting to fight someone in the sky is one of the cool. I think finally getting to fight someone in the sky would be a good addition to Sanji's, roster of battles. Remix King, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. With getting a girlfriend and the recent passing of my grandma, your VODs being a constant is something that is greatly appreciated. Thanks, Morj. Please read Twitter DMs. Oh, shit. Did I miss something? Let me take a look. Let me look right now, Remix King. I'm sorry about your grandma. Sorry to hear about that. Where are you in my Twitter DMs? What? Where are you? Oh, you know why it is? It's because your Twitter name is different. So I forget. Your Twitter name is different than your YouTube name. So sometimes amongst other Twitter DMs, if I just see something, I'm like, don't recognize the name. I'm not even looking at it. Okay, there's a video. Okay, I might do this next stream or on a break week stream, like you suggested. I see what you're saying. I might do it just to find out because I do think that'd be funny. JWP, thanks for the 2. Just fraudulent for 1 sec. Sanji versus Mars confirmed. Jupiter fraudulent for 1 sec. Sanji versus Mars confirmed. I guess the logic did kind of go like that, but he hasn't done any. It's a few things like the sandworm doesn't seem like a particularly. It just seems like the size seems to be its main thing. It's just like this giant worm type creature. It seems to be able to create a vortex, which is cool, and a very powerful vortex at that. But like even Gear 5th Luffy had to do some shenanigans to get out of it. But I think it just doesn't seem to lend itself to like a very exciting battle on paper. And on top of that, like it just seems a bit more limited than the other Gorosei, I think, at the moment. And then on top of that, I think with Jupiter, he got his head cut off by the giants right away. He got blown up by Saturn stuff. He got stopped by a building. I think he just hasn't seemed as impressive so far. Yusuf, thanks a lot. Congrats on your move. Haven't tuned in recently. Was busy with university. You think we get Vegapunk's message next chapter? Also, any tips in finding a job in this economy? It depends on where you're. I don't have good tips for it. I know people who have good tips for it, but it depends on what field you're in, because different fields are going to have different routes to moving up in the world. As for Vegapunk's message next chapter, I feel like, because we still got a little bit to go, I feel like we would end the chapter with a cliffhanger to being about to get Vegapunk's message, and then Vegapunk's message would start. You know what I mean? Also, interestingly, a lot of us, I don't know, a lot of us made the assumption early on, like, you remember when the 10-minute timer first came about? A lot of people were saying, okay, the Strats are going to have to fight to hold the Gorosei off for 10 minutes. The Strats aren't doing that. They don't give a shit about Vegapunk's message, which makes sense. There was nothing really written into the story to make it so that they should care about Vegapunk's message. Right now, it seems the only barrier for the Gorosei getting to stop Vegapunk's message is just they can't find it, which I think is hilarious. I personally think that the Gorosei are being hyper inefficient right now. Well, it depends. You know how much shit Mars is gonna get? Because, okay, so 5 Gorosei on the island right now, right? 5 Gorosei on the island. Only one of them is being... So the reason that Saturn summoned them... Think about this. The reason that Saturn summoned the 4 other Gorosei in the first place was to stop Vegapunk's message, right? But what's happening right now is Venus Juro got sent to stop the Pacifista. Saturn, like Mercury, Venus, and Saturn are trying to fight Luffy and capture him, and they're chasing him. And Saturn actually seems to have gone off to do his own thing. Mars is the only one that actually got sent to go stop the message, which I think is interesting. It makes sense because you still do want to capture the Pacifista. You don't want to let them get away. It's a big asset. You do want to capture Luffy, but initially it did seem as though their primary objective was like, we just got to stop this fucking message no matter what. Like, we have to stop this message. But instead, they left it to Mars, and Mars alone to do it. And it's not even like Mars is incompetent. He's doing his job well. It's just hard to fucking find the It's hard to find the Denden Mushi. You know, like, I feel like it kind of sucks to be Mars, right? Because once the message, like, if Luffy gets away, Luffy gets away. That sucks, but like, he's been getting away for decades now, like for hundreds of chapters, right? Like he just that's the thing, right? Like you can't capture every Yonko. Maybe live to capture him another day. But the message is the one that's really on the fucking time limit, right? Shouldn't they all be trying to get to the message? I mean, Venus Juro is fast as fuck. Couldn't he get to the message or like why is he standing in front of the Straw Hats? I'm kind of just thinking right now. I feel like maybe they're just very confident that Mars will find it, but I just personally feel, just for the sake of like sheer efficiency, like if they don't stop the message here, right? If Mars fails to stop the message, then the Gorosei did royally fuck up because there were fucking 5 people and they only sent one dude to try and to try and find the message. Why don't they should all do it or leave one? I don't know. At least Venus Juro should be helping because he is fast as fuck, right? He could zip through like the Flash, the entire building, and like he could have probably found it a little bit earlier. I don't know how I feel about that. That's funny. I mean, he did get to York. York told him where the broadcast was coming from. That just happened to be incorrect. I just think that they should have probably hindsight's 20/20 maybe. I just thought that when they were all coming in, they were all going to be gunning for the broadcast place, but instead only one of them went after the broadcast. And the rest were like, well, we'll capture the Straw Hats. And I feel like they had their priorities a little bit mixed up because it's like, you might just all want to focus on stopping this broadcast. You know what I mean? Because I'm just saying, like, it's not cool to put it all on Mars's shoulders because when Vegapunk's message inevitably goes off, then Mars is going to look like a real ass for having failed the job. But it's like, dude, you guys put the entire job on me. That's not really fair. I just don't think that's cool. Like, I think the entire team should have been on it. I don't know. I feel bad for Mars, dude. He's going to get in trouble. I know Mars can fly, but can he just also carry somebody in there or something like that? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe Mars is the only one that could logically get up there. I think that might make sense. How would Venus get up there? Can't Mars carry him? I don't know. But I don't know. I think maybe they were just very confident that as long as Mars gets in contact with York, then York and Mars can figure it out, but maybe not. I don't know. All right, moving along. Yusuf, thanks for the 7. Oh, no. Covered this. Flames of the Spirit, thanks for the 5. Time and education is needed to be built unless you use steroids. I think with steroids, you obviously, from my understanding, you can grow muscle a lot faster and a lot more unnaturally. But even then, you can't just inject steroids and magically get buff. You do need to be going to the gym. You'll just get better results than somebody who's not using steroids. But steroids alone is not, like, I think no matter what, you kind of, like, you need to be putting in the time and effort, you know? Mr. MMF2, and also I think, like, with steroids, my understanding is that usually people that use steroids, usually my understanding is they're already really, really physically fit, strong people, and they're just trying to get to the next level because they're, like, you hit a certain wall, right? So, but usually somebody that's already really physically strong, physically in good shape, physically fit, etc., they kind of hit a wall before they start using steroids. But you need to get there first through, like, most people get to a certain point first just through consistent time, effort, dedication. And then, you know, to get to the next level, you do need steroids, I would imagine. That's my understanding from what I've heard. Mr. MMF2, thanks a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if all the Gods Knights had Conqueror's Haki since all the Celestial Dragon combatants we've seen have had it. Dofi, Shanks, Gorosei. I don't know about that because, like, I don't know. We saw some of the Gods Knights designs at God Valley, and some of them just, I know designs aren't everything, but some of them just didn't scream Conqueror's Haki users to me. I also feel like the Gods Knights, just from what we kind of have gotten a gist of, is I think that they're going to be, I think we might be seeing a lot of them fighting against, say, the Revolutionary Army. And the Revolutionary Army doesn't really have Conqueror's Haki users. Like, I don't think they're quite on that level. I mean, even Sabo doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. I think outside of Garling, we might not see it among them. Marquez Perez, thanks for the 5. It seems like Sanji might run into Venus Juro since he's the only person en route to the ship. What do you guys think are the chances of this, of Zoro and Sanji having different opponents than usually expected? Zoro fighting Mars, Sanji fighting Venus. I don't think that's likely. I could see the vision. If Venus Juro didn't have a sword that seems like a Katetsu blade, I could see the vision, but I still think Zoro fights Venus Juro. But Zoro fighting Mars would be cool. Like, them swapping, I think, would be really cool. Yunus Ahmed, thanks for the 5. Morj, the red rock proves nothing. Kaido took stronger attacks and kept standing. He was simply using less haki at the time. I think the difference is that, I agree that Luffy hit Kaido with stronger attacks down the line, but I think what people are comparing it to is just the 1-to-1 comparison, which was, Luffy used Red Rock right off the bat against Kaido before Luffy got his power-ups, like his advanced Conqueror Haki, etc. Luffy used Red Rock against Kaido, and then he also used Red Rock against Warkiri. And so you can see the 1-to-1 comparison there. So it's not really relevant that Kaido took stronger attacks later on, because we're not really comparing that. Like, we don't have a 1-to-1 comparison between that and Warkiri. Luffy hasn't hit Warkiri with any advanced Conqueror's Haki attacks, so we don't really have a comparison there. But we were just gifted a clear comparison, which was, well, here's what happens when you use Red Rock on Kaido versus when you use Red Rock on Warkiri. And Warkiri does seem to be just objectively tougher because it's the same move, right? Similar example would be Zoro used the Twister move on Kaido and used the Twister move on King. And Zoro was surprised to see that, like, while the Twister move that worked on Kaido, Zoro was surprised to see that the Twister move didn't really work on King. So, it's true, Zoro has stronger moves that he later on used on Kaido, but that's just not really relevant because the 1-to-1 comparison is like, okay, Twister, like, same move used on character A, same move used on character B. Character B handled it better, therefore we can assume that character B has better durability, right? Deshaun Comedy, thanks for the 2. Please don't make Sanji a hype tool for Venus Juro. Dude. I'm not going to say it's not highly possible. Because at the moment, it does seem like Oda's in the mode of, like, hyping the Gorosei and making the Gorosei look badass, so I don't know if we're at a point yet where, like, Luffy's holding out well, obviously, but, the Gorosei are still looking good. I don't know if we're going to be seeing the Strides whooping the Gorosei anytime soon, so I think if Sanji's running into Venus Juro, I think it might be more so to hype up Venus Juro. I don't know. It's just my thought. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Philly, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months, man. People are being silly about the countdown. This is the fastest timer Oda has ever done. It's been 3 chapters and we're almost done with it. Thoughts? Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of curious about, which is, like, Oda could have just said, like, the time seems... I'm surprised that the time's flying by so quickly because we're not seeing much action. I think what was really bizarre to me was basically it seemed like the chapter that the Gorosei appeared and then the very next chapter, it seemed as though nothing had really happened. But we were told that 4 minutes had passed, roughly, if I'm remembering correctly. So I do think the time is kind of flying by surprisingly quickly. Wonder if Oda could have done a 5-minute timer, none of us would have batted an eye. But, like, he could have said that this is all happening in 3 minutes and none of us would have batted an eye. So, I don't fully understand. But, like, I think the amount of time is arbitrary. I don't know. JP, thanks for the 5. If Kid comes back, him eventually fighting Jupiter as they both have the power to pull things in could be interesting. That could be cool. That could be cool. They're just going to have a... How do I word this? A suck off? I don't know. Like trying to suck things in. That'd be funny. JWP, thanks for the 5. Oda's made Luffy look like a fraud with the eating, especially since he made it canon that Big Mom versus Kaido was 3 days and Akainu versus Aokiji was 7 days. That's the thing, which is just... I think with Gear 5th, with Luffy right now, he's almost impossible to scale because... If he's allowed to come into every fight... Dude, wait, what if this is the case? Okay. Hear me out. What if, from here on, like for the next big battle that Luffy's supposed to have, right? What if Luffy comes into the fight with a shit ton of food ready to go? Or Sanji's cooking him food as the fight's going. I would love to see that. I think that would be cool to see. I think this might be Oda's way to kind of humanize, because Gear 5th is such a powerful ability, such a broken ability in theory. We haven't even seen the full extent of it yet. Maybe this is Oda's way to kind of pull things back or nerf it in some sort of a manner. I think it would be cool to see, because I don't mind how how Luffy's managing to maintain gear 5th if someone keeps feeding him or whatever. I don't mind that. I think that's fine if Oda adds that stipulation, because it could be a drawback that allows Luffy to not be too broken, but then down the line for some fight that really needs it, for Luffy to keep fighting in that form for a while, you could get a cool scenario where like Luffy's coming in like fully prepped with a bunch of meals, or Sanji's having to like whip up meals for him as he goes. I think that could be really, really cool to see. Marquez Perez, thanks for the 2. Nah, I'm glad Oda's finally making his own senzu bean. Wait, is this a senzu bean? I thought it was just food. Are you saying that it's like a senzu bean for Luffy? I thought it's just food. Is it magic food? Is this magic food? Stride, you look like an old man. Food, want some of our Hakaro. What's that smell? Fermented shark. It's an emergency ration for Melbath. It's not a senzu bean. I guess it's functionally a senzu bean for Luffy, but for most other people, it's not a senzu bean. JP, thanks a lot. Mars is also the only one who can fly to the message. That's true, but I was saying that couldn't he have like put Venus Jura on his back or something like that? I don't know. Just a thought. Technically, he could have put all of the Gorosei on his back and flown up there, but I guess they wanted to catch Luffy. I get the Pacifista are a big deal, right? They really want the Pacifista. I think it's just, to me, it's like, how much do they weigh? Because I view like Vegapunk's message going off as, and they do too. Vegapunk's message going off is basically the worst case scenario ever, right? And that's literally what Saturn was saying when he summoned them, right? This is the worst case scenario. That's why I'm summoning you guys to stop the message, right? So they summoned them for that. But I guess once they got there, they were like, well, let's just check off all the boxes. Let's take care of the Pacifista. Let's capture the Straw Hats. Mars, go take care of the message. I don't know. I get what I feel like there was some overconfidence there. Because the thing is, like with Mars, he's not being impeded in any way. Like nothing really. He's not running into something unexpected. You know, he's literally just. He's like, it's a pretty clear path. Like he blasted his way into the lab. He asked York where the thing is. York didn't know where it is, but that's not the like. You know what I mean? Like that's the most basic sort of obstacle to run into. So I feel like they didn't put their cards on the table, because if you're coming in like really mentally like we need to stop this message, then you're allocating more resources towards that. Like, was he just banking on York definitely knowing where it is? I guess so, because York is the brain for the Vegapunks, right? Like, so he was like, don't you share the same thoughts, therefore you should figure out where it is. So it makes sense. I don't know. I'm probably nitpicking here, but I do think it's funny that they came in with like, we have to stop the message no matter what, and then they get there and then it's like, all right, Mars, go stop the message. We're all going to do our own thing, basically. But I get it. It's like, worst case scenario is the message going off, but they also still don't want to lose the Pacifista. They still would really like to keep the Pacifista, and they would definitely like to catch Luffy. So, I guess there's 5 of us. We should be able to pull this shit off. It makes sense. It makes sense. It's just, I know me, and I'm like, if I got into a situation, I'm like, okay, that really bad thing could happen, and then these 2 other bad things, like, I would just be like, we gotta, like, I would be freaking out. I'd just be like, we gotta fucking stop that message. All hands on deck. We're stopping the bet. Like, you know what I mean? I just know myself. I'm like, I would be stressed about the message. I'd just be like, guys, I know you guys want to do this other shit, but can we please stop this message first? Because I really don't let's stop this message first, and then we have time. If we have time for the other things, maybe we can do those too. But you know, that's just my thought. That's just me. I just know how I would be in that sort of situation. And obviously, I'm not like some super powerful Gorosei or anything like that. I'm just a human person. But I just know, like, organically how me as a human I would act. That I'd be fucking stressed as fuck about the message. I'd be like, all hands on deck. Please, let's stop that message. Otherworlds JT, congrats on your first super. Thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate it. Last stream, no Kizaru Awakening. What he's referencing is last stream we did a bingo card for the things that will happen by the end of Egghead's Climax, so we'll get to kind of keep checking in on how we're doing on that. No Kizaru Awakening. I thought I put Kizaru Awakening. I think it's because like, while I believe that will happen, I put out a whole video talking about it. I'm still like iffy enough that, because to me it's like we would need to see Kizaru have a character shift first, then an awakening and everything like that. So to me it's like betting on a thing on top of a thing. So maybe I was too hesitant to put that down. Imume tried to erase Egghead Island, then Egghead Island become like Eni's Lobby with island over hole and no nighttime. Yeah, no, that's the video that I just put out on Kizaru's sacrifice. Go check that video out. I think that's pretty much exactly what I think is going to happen. Jarence Rambo, thanks a lot. Rue gonna do a kid slash... Are you gonna do... I said Rue. Are you gonna do... But you put the two words together. Are you gonna do a kid slash law vid like the Zoro and Sanji vid? What Zoro and Sanji vid? What Zoro and Sanji vid? Which Zoro and Sanji vid? I've done multiple Zoro and Sanji videos. Are you talking about the one where I'm talking about like their dynamic and who's stronger than who? Or like what the gap is? I don't think Kid and... First we need a confirmation that Kid's going to be back in the story. Then I can discuss that dynamic, I think, a bit more. Just some guy with naturally wavy hair, thanks a lot. Do you think Sanji, Frankie, and Bonnie will fight Venus? I don't... I am curious, because I think all of us were expecting Zoro to run into Venus Juro, and maybe Sanji to go after Mars or something like that. Sanji fight, like, I don't know which way... I feel like Oda's still in the mode of... Again, I said this earlier. I feel like Oda's still in the mode of hyping up the Gorosei. So, I think that... I think that because Oda's still in the mode of hyping up the Gorosei, if Frankie, Bonnie, and Sanji fight Venus Juro, I wonder if it just... Because that's the same exact squad that was lined up against Saturn, right? And Oda kind of had Saturn immediately take control of the situation. So I don't like their odds against Venus Juro for those same reasons. Maybe Oda wants to make Sanji look good here instead. Also, shouts to Sanji for knocking out that Vice Admiral. I think we always kind of wondered like how the Straw Hats stack against Vice Admirals, but it seems like the Straw Hats, they should be able to... It makes sense. They should be able to handle Vice Admirals decently well at this point. Obviously, Vice Admirals have a very wide range of strength, it seems like, because, like, again, the Vice Admiral I go back to is Maynard, the one that Bartolomeo low-diffed in a bathroom. Ever since that happened, it kind of set the standard that, okay, Vice Admirals can be really, really, really weak. From what we know, the only thing required to be a Vice Admiral is to have armament haki. And, like, the random fucking fodder on Amazon Lily can have armament haki. That's not to say that's the level of Vice Admirals, but it's to say that some Vice Admirals, they can range lower, right? I imagine Vice Admirals like, let's say, Momonga, obviously Onigumo, they're gonna be more capable than like these fucking chin ass... Who are these stupid ass... Why are these Vice Admirals so themed around their chins? I don't know. But the chin Vice Admirals, I think they kind of fucking suck in comparison. But it is nice to see that the Straw Hats... I thought it might have to be a bit more of a fight between the Straw Hats, like mid-level Straw Hats versus Vice Admirals, but it makes sense. Like, Frankie can take Toby Ropo and stuff like that, you know? It makes sense that they should be able to handle run-of-the-mill Vice Admirals. Stronger Vice Admirals, I think, would give more of a fight, but I'm still going with the Frankie for most of them, outside of, you know, tippy-top characters. Obviously, Garp exception. Garp's not even a Vice Admiral anymore, is he? He retired. Tomahawk PWPT, thanks for the 5. How do you think the weak trio are going to handle Saturn pulling up on them? I don't think the weak trio are beating Saturn. Maybe they fend him off for a moment. I'm really curious why this matchup is happening at all. Because it's just not what anybody would have expected. I think that Saturn goes down by the end of the arc. Maybe the fucking robot comes in clutch and saves them. Zek Brown, thanks for the 5. The Gorosei being powerful just confirms to me that Sanji will get King's Haki. I don't know if that confirms to me that Sanji will get King's Haki. To me, you should look more at Sanji's character as to why he would get Conqueror's Haki. He doesn't fit in line with most other Conqueror's Haki characters, period. And the bigger thing is, to me, it's like I'm going to be honest, the more I've thought about it, Oda choosing to give Sanji all of these modifications and such to me, that indicates that Oda's not planning on writing Sanji to be some Haki monster down the line. Because there's no reason to go the route of suddenly revealing to us that Sanji's in it, like, because Oda's going down the route, like, as the New World's progressing, Oda's having Luffy get stronger, developing Haki, right, over the course of Whole Cake Island, Wano, etc. He's having Zoro develop his Haki over the course of Wano, etc. And with Sanji, it's kind of turning really quickly towards the route of, like, okay, his thing is actually going to be body modifications and android stuff, basically, and that's what makes him super powerful. There's no reason to do that if you're also going to be making him a Haki monster. You know what I mean? Because it seems more like for Sanji to still be very strong and relevant, but without Haki, Oda had to think of a way to justify that, and so he came up with making Sanji, genetically modified, make him a superhuman organically, right? There's no reason to do all of that stuff with Sanji. Most people didn't expect that whatsoever. And all the way up to the Sanji fight with Queen, most people were not talking about Sanji getting, like, his brother's power-ups or anything like that. They were talking about Sanji developing an observation Haki or armament or something like that. And then Oda's like, no, this is Sanji's power-up. So to me, it's like, okay, this is Oda's way of thinking of a way. He's like, I'm not going to give Sanji Conqueror's Haki, but how do I continue having him be an extremely strong character? And, like, when other human characters can't get that strong with that Haki, he's like, okay, let me make him superhuman, just organically. To me, it's in lieu of Sanji getting Conqueror's Haki. That's why we have Sanji with the genetic modifications. Otherwise, there's no real reason to suddenly include all that into his story when that wasn't really hinted at for, like, the first, like, 90% of the story, Japanese Jim, thanks for the 5. It's kind of bizarre how Oda has many top tiers being able to fight for days, yet Luffy is out of energy in 10 to 30 minutes. The Cracker fight was a fluke. Again, like, you get what I'm saying in that, what do you call? I think that it's just that, like, I think people are too wrapped up in the amount of time characters fight. Luffy can fight for a long time. He fought for a long time against Kaido on the rooftop. It's just that the gears, right? I think it's because Luffy's gears are so powerful, particularly Gear 5th. That's why Oda needed to... He doesn't want Luffy to be too overpowered. But at the same time, he gave Luffy... Like, you need to manage the main character well in that at some point, the main character needs to be able to defeat, like, the god of the world, Imu, right? So he needs the power level to be able to do that. But at the same time, there's a good way to go before he fights Imu. He has other obstacles along the way. I need to nerf him during that period of time, therefore a time limit. I think that's kind of Oda's logic. I think it held up particularly well in before Luffy got Gear 5th, so Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, etc., like Fishman Island. Like, if you think about everything through before Wano, right, when Luffy had Gear 4th in his back pocket as the ace up his sleeve, I think the way Gear 4th was written was perfect in the sense that you still need Luffy to have challenges. So even someone like Horty underwater was a challenge for him. Don Chinja, like, that's a fight, right? Like, that's a mid-diff fight or something like that for Luffy, right? Doflamingo, you don't want Luffy to just walk up and wipe the floor with him. Even as Whole Cake Island's progressing, like, you need Luffy, like, fighting the enraged army and things like that. Like, you need Luffy to have... If Luffy can just pull out Gear 4th without any sort of consequences or repercussions, then too many battles become too easy, right? So it's good, in my opinion, to have Luffy at that power level that he was at earlier, where he's fighting him with Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd very comfortably, and that's going to allow him to beat most New World opponents pretty well, but it's still going to be a challenge. On the flip side, if he pulls out Gear 4th, then suddenly he's, like, stronger than pretty much all characters in the New World except for the tippy top brass, like the Yonko's best commanders and Yonko themselves, right? So you need that balance where, like, Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd Luffy, that's a good fight for most characters. If he needs to press the, like, all-out button, he can go Gear 4th for some time, and that'll give him a good shot against pretty much anybody. But it would stomp too many of the weaker enemies he faces, right? So because Oda needs Luffy fighting characters that are not like Doflamingo, Cracker, Katakuri level all the time, because Luffy's going to be fighting a lot of Jinjaos, Caesar Clowns, Horties, etc. in between, you needed that time limit, right? The reason that Luffy can't go Gear 4th. Once Luffy got Gear 5th, I think the same logic applies, but it's a little weirder because unlike Gear 4th, Luffy himself just loves using Gear 5th for the sake of using Gear 5th. He will use Gear 5th for no fucking reason at all. He will see Lucci, and he'll be like, I'll just go Gear 5th just because it's fun. So it feels more strange because it feels like Luffy's jumping regularly to this form that has a very limited usage period and is immediately needing to get fed food over and over again. And it's like, why don't you try this some other... Like, why don't you just fight using Gear 4th and Advanced Conqueror's Haki for a while or something like that, you know? So I see... I don't know. It feels weird in that sense. But I do understand why Oda needs a time limit on Gear 5th. It's just weirder because Luffy, despite having the time limit, is not hesitant about using Gear 5th anyway and just saying, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, with Gear 4th, I think I'm elaborating this point too much, but the point basically being, with Gear 4th, the time limit system I think was good because Luffy, like, you can give Luffy challenges, etc., and he's not going to pull out Gear 4th because he needs to save that in his bag because he has time limits to it, right? So Gear 4th only comes out when extremely necessary. He didn't even pull out Gear 4th against Katakuri till, like, hours deep into their fight because it was so risky, you know? Like, the first round of Gear 4th. I'm not even talking about Snake Man. He didn't even use Gear 4th for the first time till he was hours deep into his fight against Katakuri, right? But with Gear 5th, it's weird because Luffy has the time limit to it, so there's a significant drawback, but Luffy doesn't care. So any fight he gets thrown into, he just jumps to Gear 5th right away, and then he gets hit with the time limit. And so for us, the reader, it's just kind of weird to watch. It's just like, why is he, like, we get to see the fucking time limit come to play over and over, and Luffy turning into an old man over and over when it's like, he doesn't need to be doing this all the fucking time. Anyway, let me move along. Tomahawk PWPT, thanks a lot. That's why you're not a Gorosei then, LMAO. Yeah, that's true, but that also might be why this is in reference to the fact that, like, if I got to the island, I would just be like, frantically, everybody, we gotta fucking get to the fucking message and stop it. So that's true. The Gorosei, I guess, are more confident in their abilities than me, but that's also probably why they're gonna fail to stop the message. Whereas, I'm just saying, I think if I was on that island and I said to all four of my Gorosei brothers, like, hey, let's all fucking go after that message, I think we'd have a better fucking shot at stopping the message from going off. So I still think I'm correct in that sense, in my instinct to want to start with stopping the worst case scenario and then working my way down, rather than assuming that I can stop all three scenarios, the pacifistas, the Straw Hats, and the message, and spreading my forces thin like that. I don't know. Good Life, thanks a lot. It's obvious that the Punk Records message to the Gorosei / Mars says he can vaporize it equals... It's obvious that Punk Records equals Vegapunk's message to the Gorosei. Mars says he can vaporize it all, but listens to York when she says it'll destroy Punk Records. Ah, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that Punk Records is where the message is coming from. So Mars would have to destroy it in order to actually stop the message. So if Mars But York should be able to figure out the same thought process of what Stella went through. Unless that's not quite how it works. I don't know. Deshaun Comedy, thanks for the 2. I forgot about the Iron Giant. Where the fuck is he? I imagine he will be the obstacle that prevents one of three things. Either preventing Mars from stopping Vegapunk's message, saving Usopp and them from Saturn. I think those two things. I think those two things make sense for the Iron Giant. Ponty! Thanks a lot. Thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 11 months. Theory. Vivi arrives in the big news balloon eating some fruits while Kuma dies and it turns into a devil fruit she accidentally eats. I do believe Vivi gets Kuma's fruit. I've always been on board with that. I did a video on that a while back. I do believe that. I'm definitely on board with that. Yeah, Vivi showing up eating fruits. I could definitely see that. That would be a good way to segue it. Dimian Wright, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. We have to get a character moment for Akainu when Vegapunk's message gets out, right? Whether he splinters the Marines off or not, I need to see it. I personally think I'm very, very excited for Vegapunk's message because I think that this is going to be one of the most... You know how all of our, like, one of the best scenes in One Piece that we can kind of get, or the best montage of the best sequences in One Piece we can often get, are when we kind of sweep across the world and get to see reactions and realizations from all these different characters across the ocean. I think that Vegapunk's message it has potential to be the most thorough and in-depth version of this that we've ever seen, because I think that this is supposed to be the trigger for the entire world to wake up, and realize that the world government is their enemy and they should be panicking and turning against them, right? Which means that I think a little bit more of like seeing everything from common folk, like random citizens of islands, to small town citizens that we know of, like Luffy's bar, etc., Water 7, etc., to major world figures like Dragon, revolutionaries, Shanks, maybe not Shanks, maybe Shanks doesn't need to be in this one, but everyone high and low seeing this, I think their reactions are very, very important because it sets the motivations for every major, like, for all parties in the world going forward, right? This will set what Akainu and the Marines want to do, how they feel about it. This will set Dragon and the Revolutionaries on their next path. This will change things for small town islands and kingdoms and things like that, like Water 7, Alabasta, Dressrosa, they're going to be watching as well. Small town islands like Luffy's hometown, right? Everyone from high to low, this message should affect their motivations and their views on what to do next and the choices that they make after this. So I think that, yeah, Akainu for sure, because he's going to be one of the most pivotal characters in all of this, the head of the Marines. I think his reaction is going to be maybe the single most important reaction that we could possibly get. Maybe. I think debatably, yeah. Because I think the Marines are ultimately the military arm of the world government, right? They are the reason the world government holds the power that it does, and they don't know any of this. They don't know the truth about the Gorosei. I mean, they do, like, to some degree, higher-ups know, but they don't know the truth about Imu. They don't know about the Great Cleansing that they're planning. They don't know so many other things. So for the Marine, like the Dragon and the Revolutionaries, they're already rebelling. This will just be more information. The Pirates, they already hate the world government, but for the Marines to learn, that's going to be really, really huge. That's the biggest potential change that we have in the story coming up. So I'm very excited to see that too. Good life, thanks a lot. Who does York own sins? Okay, I didn't understand this line. Who does York own sins to? The thing in Punk Record Gurgling or Emu? And Mars was surprised she knew that you can rack up sins to Emu for failures. Some hex? I don't really... Can somebody clarify this line? Maybe I'm misinterpreting something. But what does this... Like, what does this mean? Let me read this line again. Maybe I've forgotten something. I'm trying to read the line again. The line is what York says to Mars. So, York says... Of course, I know exactly how to stop this. Besides, we don't want to rack up any more sins. Our relationship is already troubled enough. So you mentioned that sins to Emu, right? So are you saying that maybe Emu's... This is an interesting point. So you're saying that you can rack up sins to Emu for failures. That could make a lot of sense because the Gorosei, as far as we know, have not been around for 800 years, right? Because even though we've seen that the Gorosei, right? So follow me with this. We've seen that the Gorosei have been around for a long time and seem to be somewhat immortal because Saturn was the same age in Kuma's flashback as he is now. However, we know that the Gorosei have not been around forever, like since the Void Century, because the Gorosei are public figures, and based on the conversation the Revolutionary Army recently had, it's clear that they don't believe that anybody could have been alive from the Void Century, which is why they were surprised about the existence of Im, right? Like, they're like, wait, there's somebody immortal out there? That means that the Gorosei haven't been around for so long that they're considered to be immortal by the general public, right? Because the idea of someone immortal is surprising to hear for the revolutionaries. So, it does suggest that the Gorosei, while they can live a very long time, they are being cycled out to some degree. So could it be what York is suggesting, which is sins, and the idea that Emu erases those who don't obey at some point in time? You get what I'm saying? If they fuck up enough, or don't obey, not even don't obey, but fuck up too often, then they get axed, and Emu replaces them. And in that sense, York is worried about racking up sins. Our relationship is already troubled enough. The only thing is that Mars has a question mark next to him, so Mars is kind of surprised. I think I'm going to have to wait on the Viz translation or like Sandman's translation for something like this. But that is a really, really interesting idea. So thank you, Good Life. That's a really interesting idea. I'm actually going to if that makes it to a video, you will be credited. Do not worry. But if that thought makes it to a video, that's a really, really good idea. It's a really good point. I did not, because I straight up didn't understand it. Ali Clown, thanks for the 2. Favorite Tarantino film? Also favorite modern actor. Favorite Tarantino film? Oh no, that's easy. It's just Pulp Fiction. I know, boring, not boring, but like basic. But that's my favorite Tarantino film. Yeah, I just think that conceptually it's the best. I think that I don't want to go too in depth into it. I'm not a huge Tarantino fan in general, but I think that it was the most creative film of his in terms of how he structured the narrative, how the common threads that you felt between all three segments. I felt that as a director, like thinking of, because one thing I always say is that I don't think Tarantino, like, he's a great filmmaker. I don't usually think of him as a great director in terms of like what he's actually doing with like, how do I say this? I think that Pulp Fiction has the best directed, like, I think if you watch a movie like Hateful Eight, I think that the scene direction isn't that impressive, right? Across the board. I do think Tarantino relies heavily on his writing, actors, stuff like that. And the general concept for the movie, right? But I think Pulp Fiction was his best in terms of scene direction. I think it was his best directed movie. Like if you compare to something like Hateful Eight, I don't think that there's a ton of great scene direction there, for example. So, yeah, I think Pulp Fiction, it's just my favorite Tarantino movie. To be fair, I've not seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've heard a lot of good things about that, so I don't know. JP, thanks for the 20. It used to be Gear 2 equals more speed, Gear 3 equals more strength, Gear 4 equals overdrive mode of both, with cooldown after, with Bound/Snake Man having different balance. That is a very, very good way to summarize it. Now, Gear 5th is the new overdrive mode, but Luffy isn't treating it like that at all. Exactly, because Gear 5th for him, it's too much fun not to use, so it just feels weird in the sense that, like, he goes into overdrive mode for basically nothing, and then he needs food right away afterwards. At least he's not jumping right back into Gear 5th again right here. I think the next time that we see... Oh, you know what? Okay. Time out. I think it makes sense why Oda... Here's my thought, right? I think it makes sense why Oda had Luffy run out of Gear 5th right here and then get his food power up again, okay? Here is why. I think that the next time... I think from here... So, we got Gear 5th Luffy against the Gorosei for a little bit, but Oda didn't want to keep running that on too long. So, I think now we're going to enter a segment of the arc that's going to be fairly high difficulty and high tension for Luffy. So, Oda needed to take Luffy out of Gear 5th into normal form, and I think we're going to see Luffy fighting in normal form, maybe in Gear 4th a little bit for some time. You know, we got Luffy using Red Rock and stuff. He's not jumping right back to Gear 5th, right? I think that the next time that Luffy uses... I think once it's time to wrap the story of the arc and wrap the battle, I think the next usage of Gear 5th by Luffy will be when it's time that's happening, that we're hitting the final note of the crescendo, right? Like, Luffy's going to... Like, the fight's going to end one way or another. So I think we're getting one... this is my guess, right? I think we're getting one more major use of Gear 5th before all is said and done. So... essentially what Oda wanted to do is basically, okay, I've been having Luffy in Gear 5th fight it, like, hold off against the Gorosei for a little bit. Now we're going to get into a high difficulty section of the arc. I'm going to take Luffy out of Gear 5th, just have him fight normal for a little bit. And then once we're getting to the final climax bit of the arc, we're in the climax, but you get what I'm saying. The final round of Luffy Gear 5th versus whatever Gorosei he's up against at that point in time, that's going to be how we close out the arc. So Oda just didn't want Luffy fighting in Gear 5th for an extended period of time. But at the same time, you can't... Like, Oda couldn't take Luffy out of Gear 5th without having him go into Old Man mode, because Oda's established that if you exit Gear 5th, you have to enter Old Man mode and be weak. So Oda kind of had to have this little situation of like, okay, I'm going to take Luffy out of Gear 5th now, but I need him to continue fighting, so... without missing a beat. He's going to go out of gear 5th, but we'll feed him food right away so he can keep fighting, just not in gear 5th. And then once the time comes around for the fight to end, we'll have Luffy go gear 5th again to close things out. Does that make sense? Basically, we just needed a section of the fight where Luffy's not in gear 5th anymore. Hence, we get this sort of, contrived moment of like, oh, he's lost all his powers, but we've got food right away so he can get back into fighting shape, etc. Right? Gear 5th fighting. Okay, now we hit a point in the arc where it's time to struggle more. Take Luffy out of gear 5th for a bit. Okay, once it's time to close out the fight, gear 5th, final time. That's my thought process. JWP, thanks for the 5. Big Twitter debate. How many gears? Oh my god. How many gears does Luffy need to beat Zoro? Base plus all forms Luffy are using advanced Conqueror. Okay, Luffy's in base. Plus all forms Luffy are using advanced Conqueror Haki and Future Sight. Base, gear 2nd, gear 4th, or gear 5th. I think that question is too difficult to answer right now because Ashura exists. For the sake of this discussion, I'm going to remove Ashura from the discussion, okay? I think if Zoro uses Ashura, he beats most versions of Luffy. Gear 4th is debatable. Gear 5th, obviously, Luffy still wins. But I think if Zoro uses Ashura, he should be above any type of Luffy. Sans, like, gear 4th is a debate, I think. Just based on Zoro's one use of Ashura against Kaido when Zoro had like most of the bones in his body broken and he didn't have full mastery of Conqueror's Haki just yet, right? And the fact that it was established that Kaido was already actively trying not to take any damage from Zoro. So there's no excuses for Kaido. So with that in mind, if I were to say off the top, like let's say King of Hell Zoro, which I don't know if it's even a mode, but the Zoro that defeated King, right? No Ashura allowed, versus I think, okay, so, I don't know. I think Zoro, what we saw before, I do think he probably gives Luffy a good run for his money, maybe, in like, here's the thing, like, when I count Luffy, people are saying how many gears. I've personally, for a long time now, just counted base Luffy as including gear 2nd and 3rd, because he uses them so it's not even he just uses them fluidly in battle. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's going gear 2nd anymore, going gear 3rd. He's just mixing them in to his moveset naturally. So, like we already saw on the rooftop in chapter like 1010, like he can box with Kaido just straight up fist to fist for a while. But he can also mix in gear, like as the fight progresses, he mixes in gears as his techniques, To me, like he'll just make his punch a little bit bigger for one move with the gear 3rd. To me, like restricting gears from Luffy at this point, it's almost like restricting his ability to stretch because he'll just randomly throw out like a larger fist than normal mixed in a moment, or he'll just move a little bit faster than normal in gear 2nd in a moment. Like it's not... I don't know. I don't really process. I've just been counting gear 2nd and 3rd as essentially base Luffy these days because it's just mixed into everything's blended together. I do think Zoro with King of Hell mode or whatever probably still gives that Luffy a good fight. I don't know if he wins, but I think it would be a good challenge for Luffy. Yeah, that's what I'll say. I think once Luffy's using gear 4th, I mean, we saw gear 4th versus Kaido. Like, Kaido was going pretty damn hard by that point. Like, he wasn't holding back, or like he was full drunk or whatever. And you can see chapter 1042, Luffy's going full toe-to-toe with a Yonko, basically, while Luffy's in gear 4th for, like, a full chapter. There's a reason that Oda had CP0 interrupt and have that be the way that Luffy gets taken out, we can assume Luffy still wouldn't have beaten Kaido, right? I think that's a fair assumption. But the fact that Luffy just still went toe-to-toe for the entirety of the chapter, and ultimately he only technically lost because of outside influence, I don't think Zoro, the Zoro that beat King, is beating that Luffy, Anyway. JWP, thanks a lot for the 2. Rack and Sins would be a fire way to give scars. Oh, shit! JWP with a G... Oh, my God. We're cooking now. This is credit to JWP. Scars could be due to sins. That is insane. That is a great point. Great point. Felix C, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. He hardly makes use of the camera as an element and really wants you to get lost in his witty dialogue. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that, like, it's hard to explain, but one, I like Tarantino's dialogue for the most part. There's lots of times that I think it's, I don't know, it's a little too, it like the dialogue, how to explain this? His dialogue like jerks itself off. Does that make sense? Which can be a little bit too, you know, self-congratulatory, like, I don't know. I like Tarantino as a director. Like, I like his movies, so I'm trying not to say whatever. But I think there's a reason that most, like, he's not, like, among, I think broader audiences are always going to love Tarantino because his movies are very different and unique, and he does have a great sense of style, and his dialogue is really fun, and his movies are not conventional compared to normal Hollywood movies, right? Lots of directors and, you know, like, more film critic-y type critics or whatever, like, don't usually list Tarantino and Tarantino films among greatest movies ever because, in terms of scene direction, he's not quite, like, in terms of a lot of the elements that make for great directors, he's not actually quite there. And I was always, like, as you watch more, you kind of learn and are a little bit more disappointed to learn certain things. Like, my favorite scene in Pulp Fiction is the dance scene. It's the dance scene. And in particular, like, there's a particular shot that comes to mind of Travolta and Uma Thurman dancing. Like, it's a single shot that has both of them, and they're doing a certain style of dance. And, like, that was a shot that I really, really loved. And it's the shot that comes to mind when I think of Pulp Fiction. And then eventually I watched the movie 8.5, and I was shocked to see, like, a very, very, very clear, like, influence is almost too strong of a, like, too weak of a word, but, like, a very, very clear grab and drop from Tarantino, seeing an almost identical dance scene there, grabbing it and putting it into his movie. And that was like an aha moment for me where I was like, okay, this is what a lot of people mean when they say he's more DJ than director, and that he, like, takes a lot of things from other movies that he likes and inserts them into his movies. But he is that, like, ultimately, it's not even evaluating as a director. Are the movies that he makes ultimately really good? And I think, yes, they're really, really good. They stand out very well. They're very different from what you usually see, and he has a very, very distinct sense of style to his movies, and I think that's what ultimately matters a lot. Yeah. Good life, thanks a lot. She also says we, as in we Vegapunks or me and you Mars, because your boomer ass would have destroyed a room where something was recorded without me. Yeah, that's true. I did get the sense that she's suggesting it's to Mars as well, because, like, the Vegapunks, they've already accumulated too many sins, right? They're fucking everything up. Obviously, Imu wants to kill them, so she seems as though she's referring to, with your interpretation, it seems as though I would assume that she's referring to herself and the other Gorosei having fucked up, because she's including herself as among Imu's servants who would deserve to be punished. Ray Uchiha, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months. The same time you changed the time of the chapter streams, my schedule at work changed, so it still can't catch the full stream. I'm sorry about that, but, you know, maybe things will change again. Who knows? Schedules are always up in the air. All right. Oh, 8.5 is really good. 8.5 is my favorite, what do you call? No, not my favorite. I think 8.5 is the best directed movie I've ever seen. I don't think it's not my favorite movie. It's not, it's not my favorite movie. I'm not going to go out there and say it's the best movie I've ever seen. But in terms of film scene direction, it's, to me, like, I think Federico Fellini, as far as my knowledge goes, to me, he's the best director that I've ever seen in terms of pure, like, how you conceive shots, how you conceive scenes, how you move everything, the blocking, set design, mise en scène, camera movement, everything. Like, in terms of combining all of those elements, to me, he's the best. And I think 8.5 is the pinnacle of that, right? I hope to one day be able to work on movies, direct movies. So to me, he and 8.5 in particular are kind of the gold standard of just brilliant direction, scene after scene after scene. I just don't resonate as much with the content of the film, quite as much. So it's still one of my top few favorite movies, but it's not quite my favorite. 2001 is still my favorite. But yeah, 8.5 is the most impressively directed movie I've ever seen, personally. Virgil Hawkins, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 18 months. Are there any canceled series / movies / seasons, etc. that still bother you? Plus, top 3 Arrested Development characters. Oh, what a fucking great question. I'm going to answer the second part first. Also, let's get the stream likes to 200 real quick. My 3 favorite Arrested Development characters are, in order, Job, Gap, Tobias. Fuck, there's so many good ones. Honestly, almost Michael, because Michael in Arrested Development is my favorite straight man character ever in any comedy. But at the same time, he's not inherently that funny himself, but he's perfect for it. Maybe George Michael, maybe Buster. There's a lot of characters vying for number 3. Job is my favorite, though, and then Tobias. JWP, oh no, let me finish this other thing. Any canceled series / movies / seasons, etc. that still bother you? I'm going to be honest, the one that bothers me the most right off the top of my head, it's the dumbest shit ever. It's like a kid's cartoon, actually, that I was watching later in life, like as an adult, but I enjoyed it. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It low-key started to become like a really fucking good, like, animated universe with a lot of really fun, interesting plot lines for a kid's TV show. It was really, really fun. And they had so much set up for season 3, and then they just scrapped the whole thing, and it was just fucking tragic. They're setting so much stuff up. So, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, that's the one that comes up right off the top of my head. Besides that, I don't know. Maybe Vagabond, because even though I've only read 1 chapter, I would like to know that there's a final chapter coming out, and there just isn't. JWP, thanks a lot. I think you would like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a lot. It's damn good. DiCaprio's amazing. Yeah, I'll check it out at some point. Like, I'll just say this, which, like, I believe that it's really good. I believe that it's good. My mom and my sister watched it, and they both really disliked it. But sometimes, like, in some ways, we have the same tastes. But in other ways, like, I'll really like something they won't. But very often we have the same taste. But they didn't like it, so that's one thing that turned me off from wanting to watch it. But I'll say this. I'll always remember this, which is I do think that Tarantino gets extra credit just for being Tarantino sometimes. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I see the trailer, right? And the trailer shows, like, DiCaprio and Brad Pitt sitting next to each other, and they're like Brad Pitt's DiCaprio's stuntman or whatever, and, like, the interviewer's asking them a question. This is in the trailer, right? So this is, like, some of the best, like, a preview into what the movie's like. And the interview person's like, yeah, so what does Brad Pitt do for you? He's talking to DiCaprio. Like, what's your stuntman do for you? He's like, oh, well, I'm an actor, so I've got a lot of difficult things to do. So this guy here, he helps carry the load. And the interviewer's like, oh, is that what you do? You help carry his load? And there's like a pause, like that's the comedic beat, like that's the funny little joke. Like, this guy helps carry the load. Oh, you help carry his load? And I'm like, holy shit, this is like bottom tier, like 0 effort, Adam Sandler, Grown Ups 2 level comedy. But because it's fucking Tarantino's writing, it's like people are gonna jerk it off as being witty. So I don't know. I thought that was like one of the worst, especially because it's a fucking trailer. So a trailer, you expect like some of the better, like if you're trying to be funny, you expect some of the better jokes or comedic moments to be advertised in the trailer. And I'm just like, this is like a fucking middle schooler writing it. But I don't know. That definitely turned me off from it. Snap, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months. Morji boy, I know I have always said you need to read Kingdom, but I cannot wait for you to read Vagabond. Vagabond changed my life. P.S. Read Kingdom. I will read Kingdom. I'll read both. I promise. I haven't seen Spectacular Spider-Man, but I heard about other things. I heard good things about it, sorry. Left Jab says, I love Adam Sandler movies, though. Hey, I'm not trying to mock, like, good Adam Sandler movies. I'm talking about, like, Grown Ups 2 type Adam Sandler movies. You know what I mean? Like, there's different levels to effort in Adam Sandler movies. Also, low-key, low-key, one of the greatest Adam Sandler movies ever, to me. And I haven't seen a bunch of his, but look... Okay, in terms of comedy, my favorite Adam Sandler movie I've seen is actually, you guys are gonna think it's dubbed, but I fucking love this one. It's You Don't Mess with the Zohan. I thought You Don't Mess with the Zohan is really, really, really funny. I'd love to go back and watch it now with my understanding of like the actual, like my genuine, far more nuanced understanding of the Middle Eastern conflict now. At the time, I knew nothing about it, so I'm just watching as a kid. But I thought You Don't Mess with the Zohan is fucking hilarious. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite comedies ever. But then besides that, Click, on the other hand, is like low-key one of the most memorable movies I've ever seen, because it starts off as like just this dumb, shallow, like bottom of the barrel jokes types movie, and it evolves into like one of the darkest and most existentially like mind-fucking movies that I've ever seen. I think because it starts off so nothing and so silly and so ridiculous, and just the spiral that it goes down is so fucking out of nowhere. It just feels like that memory is vividly burned in my brain, because it was my friend's birthday. The idea was that he had a whole bunch of people come over for like a sleepover. So it was like 15 of us sleepover, and then the next day we were going snow tubing. Okay? This was middle school, probably 6th, 7th grade, maybe 7th grade. So we were all there, and we're going to go snow tubing in the morning. And it was like, we're going to watch a movie, and we put on Click, and everyone's laughing and stuff. And then, like, it's just a bunch of kids. And then over time, Click gets darker and darker and darker and darker. And then, like, at the end, it's like fucking Adam Sandler talking to the angel of death, who's telling him about, like, how he's wasted his life and he's going to die. And it's, like, a really fucking good scene. Like, I feel like they're in a cemetery. It's, like, pouring rain. It's like he's like in tears and such. He's at the end of like he's missed his entire like. I don't want to spoil everything for the movie. I think I basically did, but like none of us knew how to fucking process it. We're just like, what the fuck are we watching, man? What's going on here? JWP, thanks a lot. Thanks for the gifted memberships. I always appreciate it. Always appreciate you coming through with that. Holy shit. A lot of people to thank, obviously, in the chat. Tandon Nosa. Ali Clown, Stormy, Ozymandias, Tiungu96. Everybody say thank you to JWP. And yeah, thanks a lot, man. Just always appreciate the support. Seriously. Thanks a lot. Joseph eBay, thanks for the 5. Yo, Morj, sorry I'm late. You seem like a psychological thriller enthusiast. Yes, I am. What are some of your favorite What are your favorites? Mine are Shawshank, Joker, Shutter Island, etc. Shutter Island I actually really liked a lot. I like Shawshank a lot. I like Shutter Island a lot. Shutter Island we watched actually at one of my birthdays, and that was like a mindfuck movie to watch with other people. Favorite psychological thrillers... I'm struggling to think like off the top of my head, because it depends what you consider what. Like there's more abstract ones like I like Under the Skin. There's like I like ones with a lot of sci-fi elements, so like you consider Primer a psychological thriller, or Coherence. I think those might fall into that category. Coherence is one of my favorite movies. Primer is one of my favorite movies. I kind of got to look through. I recently made a Letterboxd, so like now I've listed out like a whole shit ton of movies that I've forgotten about. Like I've got a whole bunch of movies I've forgotten about in the past. Persona is a great psychological thriller, even though it's fucking old school as fuck. But because it's old school as fuck, like it really stands out to me. Yeah, more will come to me the more I think about it, but if you know any good recommendations, I'm always happy to hear. JW, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Probably too early in the stream, but I felt similarly drained with Tears of the Kingdom. But finishing up the Desert Temple and the end run firmly cemented it as one of my favorites. Using less pre-made Zonai helped too. Yeah, so I saw something that somebody told, like, was talking about in Breath of the Wild as a comparison, which was like, Breath of the Wild, like, I initially really just rolled with the Zonai devices and was like, this is cool that we can do this stuff. And I didn't necessarily, like, I didn't like having to stop and build things all the time, but I was like, that's probably just because I'm not, like, a Minecraft-y type person, so that's just not an element of the game that I will personally like, but I assume a lot of other people like it. But then I started seeing, like, other people voice the same sentiment that they didn't like having to stop and build stuff, even though what you could do is really cool, but I personally didn't enjoy having to stop and build stuff. Also, I didn't have auto-build as an ability till, like, 150-plus hours in the game, because I just didn't do the quest that leads you to get auto-build. I was just like, fuck it, I don't feel like doing that. So that's my own bad. But I do think, what I want to do is, because I really want to finish the game and get the full experience, I'm just not motivated at all to sit down and play it. I think I'm going to, like, honestly just try and, like, Sunday there's NBA games on. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch NBA and have Tears of the Kingdom up at the same time. I'm going to power through the remaining, like, side stuff that I want to do, and then just get straight to finishing out the game with the desert stuff and the ending parts of the game. And I'm going to try and finish it over the course of the week, so that I can move on to new games. Because I don't want to play new games until I finish Tears of the Kingdom, you know? I've seen Oldboy. Coherence is awesome. Like Primer a lot. Persona, yeah. I've not seen Mother. Megazard says, Morj, try not to spoil Challenge Impossible. Dude, this was... Come on, man. This was 20 years ago. It's a forgotten Adam Sandler movie. I've gotten better at not spoiling, too. I have my symbol now, where I put up two fingers while I'm doing spoilers. So I should be better at it. JWP, thanks a lot. Best DiCaprio movie, not including Shutter Island. For me, my favorite DiCaprio movie is Inception. Like, I still think Inception holds up really, really, really well. Also, drop your Letterboxd in the channel description. No, I don't want people to look at my Letterboxd because the way I've rated... it's not fair the way I've rated things in Letterboxd because I'm... Like, how do I explain this? The way I've rated things is not even based on how good I think things are. I have different stars for, like, different... Like, 1 star, 2 stars, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star doesn't mean anything. I have stars based on, like... how much I want to watch something again, or like the stars have like they're irrelevant to quality. Does that make sense? I starred things based on like how I this is like 3 stars. That means like, okay, go back and watch this at some point. 2 stars means like, okay, recommend to family or something like that or something. I know you can make lists, but I'm too late. Like I haven't done that stuff yet. So far I've just been. I'm probably fucking up the Letterboxd ranking system, but I'm like, I'm just a drop in the bucket. It doesn't matter. But none of my stars mean anything. I don't think 5-star movies, I don't even remember what it means right now. I'd have to look and kind of get a gist of it again. But 5-star does not mean like I love this movie. It means something else for me. I think like, I literally forget, but I've not started based on any sort of coherent thought process. It's more like a little answer key for myself. Like, does that make sense? At some point, I will organize things into lists, but there's so many movies to organize into lists. Like, at some point I'll do it, but for the moment I just did little stars, basically. I do the same thing for, like, my anime list. Like, it's probably fucking up the rankings for other people, but, yeah. Again, Inception, I think, is my favorite DiCaprio movie. I fucking like Inception a lot. I haven't seen it since it came out, though. But it stuck with me quite a bit. I thought Inception's awesome. I imagine it still holds up, you know? I haven't seen it since I was in, high school? Probably high school, right? 2010 or something? I imagine it still holds up. Gerard, thanks a lot. Why? I don't know why no one has mentioned it, but please play Red Dead Redemption 2. It's the best game ever. I'm so serious. Also, please watch The Shawshank Redemption. No, I've seen Shawshank. Of course I've seen Shawshank. Shawshank is great. Shawshank is a movie, like, I feel like it is close to impossible for someone to watch Shawshank and not at least feel emotionally moved by it. You know what I mean? So it's one of the most moving movies. I recently saw... Oh, wait, let me comment on Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2, what do you call? I know a lot of people say it's like the best game ever. I believe it is a phenomenal game. I am not going to play it because I don't like games where I have to shoot things. I'm not a shooter person. I know that that's not the point of the game, but I just don't. That's not my thing. I don't like it. Give me a sword or something like that. That's just it. So I'm not going to play Red Dead Redemption 2 just because I know it's not my type of game. I'm sure it's a phenomenal game. I'm sure if you say it's the best game ever, maybe it's the best game ever. I don't know, but I'm just not going to try it. Movie that I recently saw. Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, when this movie came out, everybody was fucking gushing over it, right? So much hype around this movie. Everybody was talking it up. At first, when something new comes out and people talk it up a lot, I'm like skeptical. I'm like, okay, I don't know how good this actually is. But then it kept going, and then people I really trusted started saying really good things. And then as it kind of kept, I think at a certain point when people are saying certain things, I'm like, okay, I know this movie's got to be really, really good. Never got around to watching it. Watched it a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I talked about this on stream. I was so fucking floored. And after I watched it, I was like, okay, maybe I'm like maybe it's just because it's so fresh that I'm loving this movie so much right now, right? And so I let it sit for a while. Now it's been some weeks, and I still think back to that movie. I love that movie so much. The concept is, because people have done the multiverse concept a million times nowadays. That is the only movie that has done it right. Like the true idea of the infinite possibilities of you, what you could be, what it means, like the actual existential aspects of it, and also not just the existential aspects, but just life and how you approach life, the life path that you've taken, how you approach the life path you're taking, the values that matter. I love that movie. And the sequence that comes partway through the second act of I don't want to spoil it. That's one I can't spoil, but just the directorial choices, the editing, the acting, the concept, the emotions that it made me feel. I love that movie. I really, really fucking love that movie. I've not felt that strongly watching a movie in I don't even know how long. I thought I'd become jaded. I thought I'd started to just dislike modern movies and such. It's rare that something really, really moves me like that. I watched Oppenheimer last year. I thought it was a good movie, but I thought it was a good movie, a very well-made movie. But that's the most I have to say on it. It's a good movie, very well-made movie, does everything correct. I compare it to something like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm like, no, that is outside the box. That is fucking creative. That is creative as fuck. That is trying to do something so much more ambitious, so much more. I don't know. To me, that is the possibilities of filmmaking. To me, what that movie pulled off. I don't know. I love that movie so much. I know I'm not giving the best, most coherent review of it right now, but I think I'm just gushing because it made me actually feel something in a way that wasn't just like a clinical appraisal of a film. I think I've got to sit down and really think about that one, but I love that one so much. Ali Clowns is right up there with Parasite for modern pictures. I think Parasite is a really, really good, really creatively made film. To me, it's nowhere near, for me personally, it's probably a better directed, technically crafted film, I'd say, than maybe Everything Everywhere. I would say Everything Everywhere is much better in terms of editing. But I think overall as a concept story, the exploration, the writing, etc., I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is something on a totally different end of the spectrum than again, any movie that I've seen that's come out in the last decade, including Parasite, more than the last decade. That is a brilliantly creative outside the box movie. Just the concept that it tackled and how it tackled it, it's just so much larger to me than it really, because it covers so many different things. It tackles so many different themes but ties them together, so many different concepts but ties them together, and it does it so elegantly. I don't know. I love that. To me, there's a big gap to me in terms of how much I respect Everything Everywhere versus Parasite, and I really thought Parasite was phenomenal too. I don't know. I love it. John Lewis's cliche ending though. Here's the thing, and I used to feel like feel-good endings are cliche endings. I think that we're almost biased towards valuing more ambiguous or morally uncomfortable endings, etc. I do think that is a thing. And I would agree that the ending is a little bit cliche in notes, but to me that doesn't take away from the emotions that it made me feel on the ride there. And I think it's the type of movie that a cliche ending works, and I think a feel-good ending works, and I think it carries a lot of weight and meaning. So I'm okay with that, personally. Obviously, if that's not for you, that's just not for you, but it is what it is. Bingle the Oop, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months. Yo, what's up, Morj? Just using my free monthly chat for no real purpose. Here's to say bibbidi bop, scoopity dop, whoop, do wow, zomba bazoba, weep wop, warbles. I can't believe I have to read all that, but thank you for supporting me still. I appreciate it. Rumble Weep, thanks a lot. Mid-chapter this week, but closer to Vegapunk's message. Yeah, I mean, we're getting more Gorosei fights. I think Gorosei action. I think ultimately it's like the One Piece situation where ultimately right now I think what most people want to see are actually like the things that we cling on to in each chapter are basically the bits of Luffy fighting the Gorosei or the Gorosei doing action stuff. But Oda's got so many moving parts now, like we need to move the ship and like we need to do, I don't know, this or that, whatever the fuck Usopp and Rob, like them are do, like we need to get Bonnie and Kuma back. Like there's so many little parts that kind of need to be done that it's kind of like we're having to be spread pretty thin over the course of the chapter. So we only got like a little bit of a section of the chapter of getting to see Luffy fight the Giants. And I think, Luffy and the Giants fight the Gorosei. And I think that that's what most people are interested in seeing. So yeah, it's just weird because like Oda sets up really, really hype scenarios, but he's also got so much other things going on with so many characters and so many little boxes that need to be checked. Like, okay, Brook and them need to do this and Nami and them need to do that. And like, like stuff like that it can feel like even when we're getting to the meat of it, like the action, we're not getting as much as we would like. Felix C, thanks a lot. Thoughts on the Warriors already being out? I really want, because I fucking hate the Thunder. I had no expectations for the Warriors making it too far. I'm a huge Steph Curry fan. He's my second favorite player after LeBron. But ever since 2022, I've basically been cool with the Warriors not doing well again, not winning again, because I feel like the legacy is complete. I'm okay with seeing new developments in the NBA. I don't need to see the Warriors win again. They got so much winning done before. They got to win one without KD. I'm happy with the Warriors. They're done. They've had an embarrassment of riches for too long. I would love to see Steph Curry play with somebody else soon. I'm done. I've never liked Clay or Draymond, so really I've been more of a Steph Curry fan than anything, so hopefully he gets rid of that baggage. The only reason I wanted the Warriors to win and do well was just for them to knock out the Thunder. That's all I really wanted, because I fucking hate the Thunder. The most corny, cringy-ass team in the fucking league. Would be a terrible look for the league, in my opinion, if the Thunder actually had any sort of success in the playoffs this year. And that fucking free throw merchant that they're calling the MVP. Having any sort of success. So I wanted the Warriors to win and knock out the Thunder. Now it looks like the Thunder, whoever they face, are probably going to move on to the second round, which is unfortunate, but that's basically it. JWP, thanks a lot. Catch Me If You Can is phenomenal. I like Catch Me If You Can, okay. Good Life, thanks a lot. Blackbeard's Logia might be a mythical Zoan model Mu, as that means nothing/void, and that is what Emu calls himself. Reincarnated God versus living versus new God. You think like it's actually not the darkness fruit? Or you're saying he has a different fruit that's like the Mu fruit? I don't know. I like him having the darkness fruit, because if he doesn't have it, then who does have the darkness fruit? It is an interesting concept you got right there. Abrar Ahmed, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Yo, Morjius, forgot about free membership. How you doing? Honestly, it's surreal to see One Piece be this good again after Wano. Thanks for the content. Yeah, this is definitely the favorite that One Piece has ever been. The best that One Piece has ever been for me. Not ever been, but in my time as a One Piece YouTuber, week to week, this is the favorite this is my favorite era of One Piece, and getting to enjoy it week to week as a One Piece content creator. OG3 says the rock scene. The rock scene was like, and I don't think this is a spoiler, because I'll hold up 2 fingers. It's Everything Everywhere All at Once, all right? But it's not real spoilers. I'm not going to get anything specific about it. You're not going to know what we're talking about. The rock scene at the end of that sequence was like this perfect little the perfect like once we hit that felt like the perfect linchpin to the entirety of what we just run through, the entire insanity of what we just run through, and then landing on that, it just felt so, I don't know, like the perfect climax is almost just like complete and utter silence, right? And just getting to soak in the enormity of what the film just kind of made you think about. And obviously it's not a nihilistic film, it goes against that idea, but taking us having the conclusion of that whole section being the rock scene and just two rocks in an open, empty existence, and that's just the concept of what the majority of most of reality and most existences and most universes are, and just the utter idea of what she's trying to drill in, the meaninglessness of it all, the nihilism that she's ascribed to at this point. I thought the rock scene, it really, really hammers in that, when we hit that, I was just like, this movie knows how to tie together its messages, in terms of how it's constructing these sequences, the drama, the crescendo, and the final note to end it on. I don't know, I thought that was beautiful. Love it. Gotta watch Dune 2 still. I'm sure that it's really good. Gabriel Lantis, thanks a lot. I think that Mars's question mark panel was not his reaction to what York said, rather it was his observation Haki picking up the snail. Oda misdirection? I feel like that would be weird. It feels as though it's more like, I think just the writing of it feels more like, oh, I do see what you're saying. I do, because right after that, he's like, I sense the voice. I honestly think if that's the case, I feel like that's kind of bad, maybe bad paneling or maybe bad use of, I don't know. I don't think that there should be that ambiguity there. I think it should be kind of more clear if Mars is worried about what she's saying or if Mars is being alerted what's above. Because I do think that makes a big difference in how you interpret what the consequences of this scene are. Julian Criswell, thanks a lot for the 5. Sanji will have a higher bounty post Egghead. I feel like the government saw Sanji shock an admiral and block an attack while Zoro fight was hidden. So Sanji has had a higher bounty than Zoro at one point, and that was post Whole Cake Island. Right, post Whole Cake Island, he had a higher bounty. So maybe it happens again. I feel like that would have been a one-time thing, but it would be funny to have it become a bit of a back and forth. We still haven't seen, the Straw Hats still haven't done everything they have to do for this arc, so I think it's too early to call on, whose bounty is going to be what, Morj going to be so mad when Shea wins MVP. Dude, Shea would be the worst MVP in league history by a long shot. Kara, thanks a lot. By the way, I like Luka Doncic quite a bit, but and I don't know. I also think that Seed should, I don't know. I still think that you should reward best players on the best teams for MVP. I think that Russell Westbrook winning set a bad precedent because now you're going to get this argument with Luka putting up insane numbers. I really, really like Luka and I want him to win an MVP for sure. If I had a magic button that was I still just don't think it would be fair for Luka to win MVP as the 5th seed because it's not just about the numbers. It really, really isn't. Because there's been so many times in the past that a player has had historic numbers and not gotten the MVP because the idea of MVP is supposed to be best player on at least one of the few best teams, top 2, top 3 teams or something. That's just what it's been. Westbrook winning threw off the whole thing because everyone was triple-double. Okay, this is so statistically ridiculous that we just have to give him MVP. And then, what do you know, Westbrook can just keep getting triple doubles and it's actually not that big of a deal. It doesn't mean you're that valuable of a player because I think Westbrook had triple double years where most people would be yeah, he's not even a top 10 player in the NBA. I think Westbrook winning just set a bad precedent. I think that because I do think that Luka's been playing the best player this year, but that's not what MVP has historically meant. You just have to go by precedence. It's not what MVP has historically meant. It's been which is the player that's doing the most on one of the best teams. I think you need that combination because if you take that combination out, then suddenly it's well then Kobe should have won in this year, right? and probably like this player should have won in that year. Like it invalidates so much of what MVP voting was before this, and I think you just need a consistent standard to stick through. So Jokic should win it this year. James Harden is the worst MVP? Dude, say what you will about James Harden, and I fucking hated and shat on James Harden the entire time he was, like, you know, doing James, like, he and the Rockets were really good, because he was a fucking free throw merchant just like Shea. He's way better than Shea, and in his prime, if it was any other player, this would be talked about more, but because it's James, people kind of sweep it under the rug. In his prime, James Harden took the 2018 Warriors to 7 games. To 7, like, that's like the KD Warriors. He took them to 7 games, you know? Yeah, he had Chris Paul, but James Harden was better. Like, James Harden was still the best player on that team. And most people thought that, like, nobody had a shot against the KD Warriors, period. It's, you know, it's not like the Rockets had a super team or anything like that. They had James Harden and old-ass CP3. James Harden was really, really fucking good. Like, really, really, really fucking good in his prime. Like, really fucking good. He got really fucking close. Like, he got really fucking close to doing what most people said was just, like, impossible to do. I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't played as good in the playoffs as he does in the regular season, but, like, he did also still get fucking close to taking out the KD Warriors, so it's like his whole legacy gets looked different. He was just asked to do the impossible, and he couldn't do it, and then people are like, well, he just sucks. So, you know. At the time, though, I was of the opinion that he sucks. It's just in retrospect and being more honest with myself, I'm like, yeah, I didn't like James Harden because he was too good, basically, and I just didn't like his play style. But objectively, as a player, he was one of the best players I've ever seen. Abyssal Leviathan, thanks a lot. Warcury's hybrid is going to look like Ganon. Holy shit, that would be pretty sick if Warcury's hybrid looks like Ganondorf. It would make sense. I am curious to see how the Gorosei fight in their hybrid forms, because right now Venus Jura's in his hybrid form, obviously. I want to see Warcury in his hybrid form. Yeah. JWP, thanks a lot for the 5. It's really hard to see any one team taking the Nuggets to 6 games, let alone a full series. I mean, we say stuff like that, but then at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, shit happens. The Nuggets aren't that much better than everybody else, I don't think. I think they're just the most clearly, they don't have clear weaknesses, and they have that extra gear it feels like they can go to. But it's not like, I don't feel like I'm watching the KD Warriors, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is a beatable team. It's just, it would require another team playing really, really fucking well. But it's the NBA. Things can happen, you know? Evil Friend, thanks a lot for the 2. Finished the Bodhi in my reread. Hits way different. Oh, dude, with the Kuma context and everything like that? Yeah. Kuma context, it's got to feel like... Because once you have the context of not just Kuma, but also Kizaru, Sentomaru, we know them better as characters now. Now when you're reading that, I don't read it as like, oh, these are like the villains that are like beating down on the Strats. I'm like, fuck, I like these characters too. These are good-ass characters. They're going through their own shit, their own stories. You just get this whole new layer added to Saboti when you're rereading it nowadays. Clippers beating Mavs in 6? Yeah, but like... I believe, like, I'm not saying yeah like that. I think my heart wants the Mavs to win, and I just feel like it would be really fitting that, you know, like, Luka got stopped by the Clippers twice on his way up, and now beating them would be kind of like an ascension, kind of like Jordan and the Pistons, like, you know, but on a, you know, not the same, but like, you know, a little hint of that. It would feel really good, you know, like... But at the same time, it's just like, I just got a bad feeling. Like, I feel like if Kawhi turns it on, I know Kawhi's injured, but like, I shouldn't have put injured in quotes, but you just never, like, over the course of the series, he could turn it up. I don't know. I just got a bad feeling. I really want to believe that the Mavs win. My ideal Western Conference is... Nuggets, Mavs. I would like to see those two teams. And if I can't have that, I want to see the Timberwolves make it. I'm a big Zion fan, actually, by the way. So I felt very bad. Not a big Zion fan, but I've become a Zion fan. I would have loved to see the Pelicans make their way, but Zion got injured. Yeah, I don't know. And dude, I'm fucking sad because I like the Heat. I've grown to like the Heat and Jimmy Butler a lot. And they're the only team that I like in the East. I really don't like the fucking Celtics. So I would love to have seen. Oh, wait, did I say Nuggets Mavs is my ideal Western Conference? That's only because I'm writing off the Lakers mentally, by the way. I don't believe the Lakers beat the Nuggets. So I'm already not really like talking about the possibility of LeBron getting there. So I'm talking more realistically in my head, like Nuggets Mavs being the Western Conference. But if LeBron can make a run, if LeBron makes it back past the Nuggets, I feel like he's got an amazing shot at the championship. I just don't believe they're beating the Nuggets. Like maybe I'm being too cynical or whatever, but I'm not even mentally writing it in as like a thing. So yeah. Joseph eBay says it's Boston's championship to lose, but the Celtics may choke. My least favorite players in the NBA, I'll tell you right now. Least favorite players, they're all in the East. Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid. Sorry, not they're all in the East. There are a couple in the East. Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Shea. Shea is probably number one because he's a fraud. And Ja Morant. Those are my 4 least favorite players. All right? 4 least favorite players. Okay. Jason Tatum because he's fraudulent, overhyped, right? Shea because fraudulent, overhyped, plus big Zoomer TikTok kid energy. Embiid because he's a flopper at like the biggest, strongest dude in the league is a flopper, playoff choker, whiner, blames other people. And then Ja Morant is just fucking irritating and stupid as fuck. And he has that annoying-ass dance that pissed me off when he used to do it. I did not want to see some dude twerk his way to an NBA championship, personally. So those are my 4 least favorite players. Favorite players, still LeBron, still Steph. Wemby, I feel like I fucking love Wemby. I like, if you listen to that dude's interviews, his quotes, etc., he's going to be my favorite player soon. Not just because he's amazing, but because he's amazing, but also just such a, like... self-reflective, like well thought out, just like it feels like he's insanely wise for like a young kid. Zion's actually like like you listen to Zion in interviews and stuff like that. One of the things that changed me on Zion a lot was he had an interview where he talked about like how he liked writing poetry, and that really opened my eyes to like the type of person he is. I felt so bad when people were shitting on him for being for like being fat over the course of this year. I was just like, what the fuck, man? Like, he's still like putting up amazing numbers and stuff. I don't know. Luka, I've liked for like a good time. And then Jokic, obviously impossible to dislike. Hating Ja is crazy, dude. Ja is fucking stupidest ass person in the league by far. How many times do you have to get told don't do stupid shit with guns? And he's like, all right, but tomorrow I'm going to do some stupid shit with guns. And yeah, I don't know. His annoying ass dance pissed me off. To me, it's just like, I need like the most. Ja and Shea just seem like 2 like corny ass little kids. Like they don't seem like NBA championships like players. They seem like 2 corny ass immature little kids that I don't want to see winning a championship ever. I don't know. They fucking piss me off. I don't like those 2. Young players coming up. Oh, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, he's like immature in a sense, but in a cool way. It's hard to explain. Like Anthony Edwards is just like, he's the only up and coming player that's kind of got like that energy that like you feel like doesn't exist anymore with NBA players nowadays. Anthony Edwards, obviously. Yeah, so I think among the newer batch of NBA players, like up and coming youngins, right? My enemies, ones I don't like, Shea, ones I'll root against, Shea, Ja. Ones I like, Wemby, Zion, Luka, Anthony Edwards. So those are kind of like, that's how I'm viewing this newer batch of NBA players. Also, yeah, no, that makes sense. Wade Turner says, you don't like the Greek Freak? I don't dislike Giannis. I would be happy for Giannis if he wins. I don't dislike Giannis. I'm just never going to root for him, probably, unless it's against a team I dislike more. I don't dislike Giannis. I do think his play is a little bit too one-dimensional. I think the things that frustrate me about Giannis is that he's just... I think he's a likable person. I think the stuff that he does is like the way he physically dominates is really, really impressive. He's just too one-dimensional, and like there's certain aspects where I feel like he gets to skip a lot of like what being a good basketball player involves. And I don't know, like I just remember last year watching him lose to the Heat, and like he's being given the ball and he's like fucking terrified to have it, and he's playing hot potato because he just can't make a shot. He's just scared. He's throwing bad passes. Like literally they're giving him the ball and he's just like scared and throwing it away. And that just like hurt my impression of him quite a lot, because it's like even if you're not having a good shooting night, or you're like not a good like, or you're not playing your best, like still act like play with confidence. Like still you're the best. Like you're supposed, at the time people were thinking he might be the best player in the world. Like he did not play like it whatsoever. And I don't know. Just terrified, taking free throws at the end. I don't know. He just doesn't feel like a like he has the things that I want out of the best player in the world. Does that make sense? But he's got his physical dominance. Felix C says Wemby's low-key a nerd, and I love that. Yeah, Wemby's Wemby's low-key. I don't know about low-key a nerd, like a little bit of that, but he's also like a philosophical dude. If you listen to him talk a little bit. I don't count Giannis as up and coming. I think like to me the current generation, like Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, Tatum, they're no longer up and coming. These guys are there. They need to be delivering now, right? Old guard, I view as LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Steph, obviously. That, like, to me, that's how I'm grouping him. Like, old guard, LeBron, KD, Steph, Kawhi, they still exist. They're still relatively very good, near the top of the league. Then current guard that's supposed to be in contention for best player in the world, or like it's their time kind of. Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Tatum. I think Tatum doesn't get a pass for being young anymore. He's there, right? I think the next generation that should be in contention for best player in the world or whatever. I think Luka's at the head of this pack. Wemby will soon be at the head of this pack. Still got Ja. Still got Shea, still got like Anthony Edwards coming up, and Zion I think at full potential is right there with them, like right there at the top of potential for being close to best player in the world. JWP, thanks for another gifted 5. Holy shit, and we're not even talking about One Piece. Sorry about that, man. Car, thanks a lot. Car, say thank you. Eat Deert, Patty G, Javok, Snorting Magic. Everyone say thanks to JWP. Thanks a lot, man. I can tell you're happy that One Piece is back, and I hope you enjoy the upcoming content. Jinmo Re255 says hating Ja for dancing is big boomer energy. Yeah, I don't care. Fuck that guy. Like, I just don't like. I don't like, dude. Stop fucking twerking. Just stop twerking. You don't need to twerk. Like, I'm not gonna support some dude that's twerking his way to an NBA championship. It's just like, no. I'm glad he's not in the league right now. Like, come on now. Try and have some aura. Try and have like a little bit of aura. Good life, thanks a lot. Blackbeard's fruit doesn't give the hallmark Logia characteristic. Also, taking and bestowing fruit powers has nothing to do with darkness, but devil lore, perhaps. That's true. It doesn't have usual Logia abilities. He did explain why that is the case, but at the same time, he might just be mistaken on that. At the same time, Blackbeard also studies history a lot, so you would expect him to know a little bit about devil fruits, but then at the same time, Blackbeard probably didn't know that Luffy's fruit is the Nika fruit, so he doesn't know everything. So I see what you're coming from. I do think it's possible. Does that mean he's going to eat a Logia fruit at some time? Because then he would have Paramecia, Zoan, and then maybe something else. That would be cool. Like, the parallel, I like the idea that, like, Luffy thought he has this fruit, but he actually has that fruit. And Blackbeard thought he has this fruit, but he actually has that fruit. I do think that's cool. JWP, thanks for the 5. I dislike Giannis a lot. I can't explain it. Also, Wemby has that LeBron-level PR training, LMAO. Dude, I don't know. I feel like Wemby, I feel like he's giving his natural answers. Like, I love LeBron. LeBron is my favorite player of all time. But, like, I can tell, like, you can kind of tell. LeBron has, like, he's very sharp. Like, I don't know. it feels like more composed how he is with the media and everything like that, in terms of like, I don't feel like it's like it feels like some PR framing, like, and stuff. And he also has like lots of little comments that kind of, you could tell, like little side comments and things like that in the way he says things, and he's like subtly getting at something or something like that. Whereas Wemby, I do feel like we're getting to see his genuine self for the most part. Giannis dislike, I think a lot of it comes more, I feel like people cling a lot to, I think Giannis was hard to dislike for quite some time because he's just, a good, personable dude, kind of goofy and cornbally in a few ways or whatever, and he doesn't have a bag like a lot of people want people to have. I don't need players to have a bag, but I, like if you dominate physically, you dominate physically, but I'm just like, at least act like a NBA player when, the fucking, like, your season's on the line. Like, just seeing him play like fucking like a scared little kid last year in the final game of the first round, the final minutes, where he's like, oh my god, a fucking basketball, like, what the fuck do I do with it? I need to get this out of my hands. Like, that was just embarrassing. Like, I don't need you to have a bag, but like like, act like you know what to do with a basketball when you're not like you're not able to just like run and dunk over people, like, you should be able to do some shit. You shouldn't be terrified. Okay, so, but that's him as a player, right? Like, I get that I think that people have had a lot of little reasons that they kind of don't want to like him, and then I think certain things that happened recently, like him, what do you call, like the game ball incident or whatever. I think people are making a huge deal out of that. I totally understand why Giannis would want a game ball. I think maybe, like, in the moment you might be emotionally just pumped up. I don't think that makes him a bad person or anything, but there's just things that have made people dislike him as of late. Jin Mori 255 says, watch Ja highlights, you'll see aura. No, Ja does have crazy good highlights, but aura comes from outside of your highlights, Like, Anthony Edwards has aura. He just does. You hear him in interviews, you see him, whatever. I'll say this. I became an Anthony Edwards fan, first of all, though, not from watching him play, because I didn't watch the Timberwolves at all that year. I watched him in that fucking movie. He was fucking great in that movie, and I was like, I need to watch this guy play basketball more, because this is, like, the best athlete actor that I've ever seen, period. He seems like a fucking natural. And then I watched him, like, actually play basketball, and I'm like, holy shit, it translates to this shit too. I think I'd already seen him play. It might have been, was it before or after the 2020? No, I think when I really got to see him play was in 2023 playoffs a lot. Anyway, Anthony Edwards has aura. You don't need to watch him play 1 second to see that this dude has aura, just from the way he talks, conducts himself, etc. Ja is, like, at every possible opportunity trying to negate his aura. He's only got, like, he's got cool highlights though, for sure. Like, the dude is literally like you shouldn't be running on Twitter talking about how you're gonna, like, get your gun and shoot kids and stuff like that if you actually have, like, that energy, he's a compensating dude, give me 1 second, I just gotta see how I'm on time. One sec. Luka obviously has aura. The reason Luka has aura, even though he's, like, always laughing and shit like that, is because he makes everything seem really easy for him. Like, he's never pressed about anything. It's just kind of just like, he's got that energy, King G, thanks for the 5. I think the dislike is because Giannis got his 30-13 coach fired and hired sorry-ass Doc Rivers and ruined their season, but he plays the Mr. Humble nice guy. Well, the thing is, I like LeBron, and LeBron will pull some leg GM moves too that I look the other way from. But, okay, I don't know. Maybe I give Giannis the benefit of the doubt, because, like, a lot of people assume that he's the one that got this or that to happen. and I can't kind of just give him the benefit of the doubt that, like, you know, it's not necessarily him that's behind a lot of these decisions, or that it's complicated. But I don't know. I do feel like there's something. I don't know. I get why people dislike Giannis. I kind of just I feel like people can create their own narratives and run with it and say it's that this is obviously what happened or that's what obviously happened. I don't know. Unless there's like clear evidence, I try not to do that, I guess. But I get why it's fair assumptions to make. So, I don't know. Jin Mori 255, thanks a lot. You ain't see Ja at the strip club. He do be wildin' though, can't lie. Everybody acting tough when they up. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Luca's obviously got aura. Wait, I can't believe I got tricked into talking about aura. I think talking about aura is dumb. That's an aura-less thing to do, but I guess we are. Eat the Earth says no benefit of the doubt for Shay. No, because hate's a wrong word. My dislike for Shay is SGA is just irrational. 1, I don't watch him play that much. 2, I do know he's a free throw merchant. 3, there's just something about him and that team and their fucking woofing and stupid ass TikTok barking just pisses me the fuck off. There's just something about them. Just like these soft ass little Thunder kids. I hope they run into some team in the first round that beats their ass. Unfortunately, the Warriors are out. I think the Warriors probably would have lost to them, though, now in retrospect. So I got to avoid seeing Steph fucking beaten by fucking Gen Z TikTok cringe shit. I don't think the Kings can beat him. I don't think the Pelicans without Zion can beat him. I think the fraudulent Thunder are going to make their way to the second round, which is so sad, but it is the way it is. Hate is a strong word. I don't hate Shea. I dislike him. Everyone hates that Giannis's brother's in the league, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's not like Thanasis is not the reason that they're gonna win or lose. Like fucking that deep in the roster, it doesn't matter, you know. John Lowe says somehow they're still the 1 seed, lol. Yeah, maybe the Thunder proved me wrong this playoffs. Like, to me, you're a fraudulent 1 seed if you're not, like, favored to at least get to the conference finals. And I don't think that but maybe the Thunder do make it to the conference finals. There is definitely a path there. JP, thanks a lot for the 10. That coach gave them a good win-loss record, but there were incidents all year that led to the whole team hating him. You can look it up. That's why they fired him mid-season. Yeah, so there's more to it. That's why there's more to it. I don't hold the coach situation or anything like that against Giannis. The Drew Holiday trade, I don't know how much of that was Giannis, if at all. I don't know. Anuj Agrawal, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months. Who has more aura, Venus, Juro, or Jokic? Also, do you agree with the rest of the NBA media that Denver versus Boston is inevitable? What about Morj versus Sanji? So if I had to put money down on something, and I don't actually do any sports betting, I have friends who do it quite a bit, but I don't know. A quick story, which was like, there was something similar, like there was, so I didn't watch football at all in college or anything like that, or even now, but like my best friends at the time were really big into it. This was like junior, senior year of college, and there was a gambling site that was legal at the time, I forget, and then it got closed down or something like that, maybe it came back, and like they convinced me to just bet on some results. So like they'd been up and down, losing money, winning money, etc., but they were down. So I just made one bet for like $50 and I won $50, and then I was like, okay, I'm never doing it again. And they were really pissed because they actually watched football a lot, and they had both lost their bets for the last like 2 weeks. So I was just like, I guess I just know better than you guys. Anyway, I'm not going to do sports betting now. I just don't think that's a good thing for me to get into. But that's not what you asked either way. Denver versus Boston. If I had to put money down, if I had to, I would bet Nuggets versus Celtics. Nuggets have more competition, but I think they're also less likely to be upset, like on the way up. Celtics have weaker competition. Like Celtics, I think, are more likely to choke or randomly underperform, but they also have weaker competition on the way up. So I could definitely see the Celtics in the NBA Finals this year. Nuggets, Celtics, yeah. If I had to bet money, it would be that. But things can happen, you know? The Heat are usually like the big wild card, and they're out of the equation this year. So we'll see. Felix C., thanks for upgrading to Pirate King tier member. I hope you enjoy the upcoming Pirate King podcast. The Yonko podcast for the week will come out tomorrow. It'll come out tomorrow because my editor, who usually makes the sound files sound better, he is, he's basically out of commission today. He had to take a family member to the hospital. So it'll be out tomorrow. But usually Yonko tier podcasts come out every Friday. JWP, thanks for the 5. Aura, as the kids say, Morj 2023. Morj 2024 explains the level of aura and the intricacy of aura among NBA players. I bet for real that's how I found a lot. Man. I fucking hate that I accidentally just picked up the vernacular. Who has more aura, Venus, Juro, Jokic? Forgot to answer this part. Mars versus Sanji. I think I'm going to say Jokic has more aura than Venus, Juro. I'll just say that. Because Venus Juro, we ultimately know, is most likely a Zoro victim, whereas Jokic is very likely going to be an NBA champion, I think. Mars versus Sanji, I don't know if we're getting, people are talking about Venus Juro versus Sanji up next. Maybe it's because we just get a preview of Maybe it's because it's not time for Sanji to fight Mars. I like to believe Sanji will fight Mars by the end of the story or something, though. It just feels like such a good matchup, you know? Morj hates fun? Maybe. Alright, guys. I'm probably going to call it in 5 minutes. I'll call it in 5 minutes. Y29 says, which NBA players have Conqueror's Haki? Okay, here are the NBA players that have Conqueror's Haki, alright? This is a fun exercise. LeBron. Jimmy Butler. Steph Curry has an amazing arc because I believe he did not have Conqueror's Haki for a good while. I believe during the entire 2010s, up till Kevin Durant leaving, I think Steph had the potential for Conqueror's Haki. But I think 2020 Steph, if you watch Steph his entire career, 2020 Steph is just a different person. There's just more of a commanding air about him and how he leads the team and just a level of confidence on the court. It's just different. It's new. Steph developed very powerful Conqueror's Haki that led to his 2022 championship win later on. But I don't feel like 2015, 2016 KD era Steph had 2017 to 2018. I don't think he had Conqueror's Haki just yet. LeBron, Steph, Kawhi, even though I dislike him, he low-key has Conqueror's Haki. Jimmy Butler, Conqueror's Haki. Does Jimmy have Conqueror's Haki? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Jimmy Butler. Maybe Jimmy Butler has Conqueror's Haki. Jokic has Conqueror's Haki. Some of the calmest Conqueror's Haki ever. But it's just there. Nothing moves that dude. He's just got Conqueror's Haki. Tell you who doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, fucking Embiid, Tatum. Wemby is coming up with Conqueror's Haki, for sure. Shea does not have it. Mr. I need free throws. Ja, Mr. I'm going to shoot you with my guns because I'm so tough, does not have Conqueror's Haki. Ja is a classic Bellamy. Anthony Edwards, obvious Conqueror's Haki. Luka? I think Luka has Conqueror's Haki. Who am I missing? I think that covers a good number of it. I don't think Giannis has Conqueror's Haki. I think Dame did a great job for years convincing people he had Conqueror's Haki. And then as soon as... now I don't think he does. I don't think he ever has it. He's ever had it. Draymond has it for sure. No, Draymond has armament hockey. And he likes to use it. Rudy Gobert with Conqueror's Haki? No. I think Giannis has really high level armament haki. Let's say that. I don't think KD has Conqueror's Haki. Like, even in his prime, I don't think KD ever had, like, you know, like, it's not just about your skill. Like, KD in his prime, obviously, like, best scorer in the world, contention for best, like, he was always, like, top 2-3 best players in the world. Arguably the best as of 2021 or something like that, like, that 1 year that he nearly beat Milwaukee. But it's not about that. I don't think he ever had Conqueror's Haki. KD's the, like, most insanely talented scorer that somehow has the softest present, like, the most forgettable presence you can have. I don't know. He's just like this, I don't know. Yeah, Kawhi low-key has Conqueror's Haki, even though I stopped liking Kawhi at a certain point when they started putting him above LeBron that 1 year. I think he just started getting overrated, but, like, at the same time, in my heart of hearts, I feared Kawhi as this emotionless, scary robot that might take out LeBron and the Lakers. It was just this ominous, like, scary obstacle type hockey. Jordan had Roger level Conqueror's Haki. Yeah, Jordan probably has the highest level of Conqueror's Haki in NBA history. Dude, like, even players talk about it. Like the way that LeBron is the best player I've ever seen, and I think he's the best player of all time, but I think relative to their era, I think the gap between Jordan's ability as a player and the rest of the field was the highest ever, right? I think LeBron is a better player than Jordan just because the level of play has over time gone up. But I think in terms of gap relative to your peers, Jordan is probably bigger than everybody else. It's kind of like how in chess, most people say that Bobby Fischer in his prime had the biggest gap between him and the next best players, basically, right? So if you go back and, like, there's a compilation I found, like, that was posted at some point of just quotes that players, like, the best players in the world of Jordan's time had about Jordan. It is fucking insane how everyone from his era just sucked his dick. Like, literally everybody. I think Karl Malone is, like, the only guy who's, like, has said some shit like he could take Jordan. Like he was like, oh, Jordan was lucky to get those or something like that. Everybody else just sucks his dick. So the second best player from the 90s, right? Who's the second best player from the 90s? Second best player from the 90s is Hakeem Olajuwon. Let me put this up. Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Second best player in the 90s, won 2 championships, generally considered the second best from that era. Listen to this. Where's this? Damn, dude, like, holy shit, like, Hakeem Olajuwon would literally talk about Jordan like Jordan is, like, this king that rules over the jungle. He was like, if he were an animal in the jungle, Michael Jordan could lie out on the biggest rock and no one would disturb him. No one would attack him. Like, this is the number 2 player of that era being like, yeah, that dude's, like, the king of the jungle. Like, he just described there as, like, like, the definition of Conqueror's Haki. This is also another quote from Hakeem. Most superstars, if they match up against each other at the same position, neutralize each other. When you put together your game plan, you figure out that someone else has an outstanding night, that this is a standoff. Unless someone has an outstanding night, this is a standoff. The game will be won by the other teammates. But Michael Jordan isn't neutralized. He's different. Michael Jordan dominates superstars. This is the number 2 player of the era talking about Jordan as though Jordan is just like this king that's on another planet. Eat the Earth says Isaiah Thomas hated Jordan. Yeah, but I mean, even Isaiah Thomas talks about, like, how great Jordan was and how, like, far above the rest of them he was. Name the 90s players with Conqueror's Haki. I don't know them, because Conqueror's Haki, it's not just about skill level, it's also about, like, the like the persona you give off. Like there's a reason that KD I think doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. I think he's like a little bit soft, a little bit sensitive. He's just a little bit, just like a little, I don't know. I think he's like a little wallflower type dude that just happens to be insanely talented at basketball, at putting the ball in the basket. So I don't know enough about the 90s dudes. I think Charles Barkley had Conqueror's Haki. Jordan, obviously. I assume Hakeem did, but I don't know enough about Hakeem. Yeah, Kobe obviously had Conqueror's Haki. You can toss up the second best player too. Hakeem, Barkley, Malone, Shaq. No, Hakeem is obviously, like, I could see Karl Malone being... Shaq became the best in 2000s, basically. Lakers, like, I know Shaq joined the Lakers a little bit before 2000s, but Shaq, like, that was his era, 2000s. 90s, Shaq was not better than Hakeem during that period of time. Barkley has outright stated that Hakeem is you can find interviews of Barkley back then talking about how Hakeem is the best player in the world. This was during Jordan's retirement. Once Jordan retired, Hakeem was considered the best, and Barkley was just like, yeah, Hakeem is the best player in the world. Karl Malone, my understanding of Karl Malone is that he used to be considered below Barkley and the other guy. Like, it's just that they started making the championship, so I guess later in his career he kind of got there. So maybe Malone was like second best in the 90s, but I think most would say that Hakeem is higher. And like in their primes, I think Barkley was considered above Karl Malone. It's just Barkley didn't have the longevity. I don't know. Jordan equal Roger. Jordan does, I think Pirate King, like the most iconic pirate. Jordan, no matter who you have in the LeBron or Jordan GOAT debate, like, Jordan's still ultimately going to be considered the iconic basketball player that everyone knows, like the first, like, really, really big, like the first name that's on most people's minds. That's just the way it is. I don't think LeBron's got a way to surpass Jordan in just like the average layman's vernacular, right? When it comes to talking basketball. It's going to be more so inside the realm of basketball fans that you have that debate of like LeBron versus Jordan, right? But for the general world, I think the name Michael Jordan is probably going to be more prominent than LeBron James for a good period of time. KD with his glasses and backpack persona till he left the Thunder, says JP. Yeah, I think KD has more, he's closer to Urkel energy than like Conqueror's Haki energy, you know? JWP, thanks for the 5. Crazy how LeBron's biggest rival was supposed to be KD but became Steph. But yeah, Jordan without his MLB stunt is the greatest what if in sports history. I don't think Jordan without his MLB stunt is the greatest what if. Because, like, that's... I don't know. I don't think that's the greatest what if, personally. Like... I mean, I don't know. I think Jordan fans can view it as, like, well, he would have won those two as well and would have 8. I'm not going to speculate on that. I do think that the point that you just made, which is LeBron's biggest rival was supposed to be KD, but became Steph. So let's think about that for a second, which is... LeBron's biggest rival was supposed to be KD, right? Then it became Steph, and he beat both of them, right? He beat them both, and like taken championships off of both of them. He's clearly better than both of them. So then his two biggest rivals, like one was supposed to be his rival but not good enough. Then the next was supposed to be his rival but not good enough. They both had to team up, along with a whole slew of other top tier players, to then beat LeBron. Right? That is, like, just the concept of that. Like, Jordan did not have to play against the second and third best players in the NBA in his era teaming up to beat him, right? And again, it's not just like they teamed up. It was like they teamed up along with arguably the best defensive player in the world, Draymond Green, and like the second best shooter of all time, Klay Thompson. Like, the best sixth man of the in the world, Andre Iguodala, and one of the premier coaches of the time, Steve Kerr. Like, it was just like there's no such thing like that happened in Jordan's era. It would be like if Hakeem and Barkley teamed up, but also with like fucking Scottie Pippen on their team, or Dennis Rodman on their team or something like that. you know? And like the best shooter of their era or something. And like with also a really, really great coach and the sixth man of the year. Like if all of those things came together and that's what Jordan had to face. I don't know. Felix says Jordan wasn't stopping Hakeem and the Rockets those years. It's possible. It's entirely possible that they would have beaten him. Like, because Jordan, it's tricky because like on one end, Jordan himself talks about like how that would have been like a really difficult matchup for them. So Jordan acknowledges it. But then on the flip side, like you've got a shit ton of quotes from Hakeem also talking about just like how Jordan was on another level and better than himself and any other player. So they both praise the other guy a lot. No, they definitely needed KD. They 100%. In 2018, they didn't need KD. Like, well, no, in 2018, they would have possibly lost to the Warriors without, or the Rockets without KD. No, there's quotes on quote. Like, every single Warriors player has talked about how, they definitely needed KD. And this is in years after KD, so they're not just saying this to placate his ego, right? Every single Warrior, like every single major Warrior, like Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iguodala, they all talked about how, like in separate interviews you can find about how they did need KD to beat LeBron. Because a lot of people talk about like, well, they were up 3-1, so they were really close. But the point is that if you then lose 3 games in a row, that's due to the other team having made an adjustment, right? The Warriors talked about, like you can find so many interviews talking about like how, that finals, they were starting to get solved, right? They were already being run very close earlier in the playoffs, right? They were down 3-1 to the Thunder and everything. But like if you get reverse 3-0'd like that, right? It's not like it's not the same as going 7 and then losing. It means that there was a fundamental shift in how the other team approached you, and now it's got you on the back foot, right? So like just because that series went to 7 and they were close to winning, the direction that series went afterwards, like to any, like under any sort of like analysis or whatever, because I've watched analyses of like how that finals went and the adjustments that happened, it would be a much worse matchup for those Warriors if they had to play a fresh series again against those same Cavs. And the Cavs the next year were a lot better too, the 2017 Cavs. Yeah. See, Double R Ali says it went to 7 games without KD. They didn't need him. No, but the point is that once, like, it's not like what do you call it? It's not like it went. It's the manner in which the series changed, right? If you watch any sort of analysis or breakdown of the series, like there are adjustments being made and things being solved that make it so that now the Warriors start losing back to back to back, right? So by the end of that series, right? If you've dropped 3 games in a row to the Cavs when initially you were up 3-1, the Cavs have made the correct adjustments to now they have a clear advantage over you. It's not the same as technically it went 7. Yeah, it went 7 on paper, but if you're looking at actually what's taking place over the course of the series, the Cavs have figured something out that the Warriors are now struggling to deal with. And even if they'd pulled that out, right, the Game 7, because it was very close down to the wire, the reality is you're going into next season with the Cavs now having a clear, much better handle on how to approach playing you. And the 2017 Cavs were a lot more stacked than the 2016 Cavs. And the biggest thing that was being talked about was by the end of the season, most teams were figuring out, like the Warriors were ahead of the game in terms of style of basketball. But as soon as the new season started coming around, teams knew how to play, like teams in general, forget the Cavs. Lots of teams in general knew how to approach them and deal with that style a lot better because they kind of punched the entire league in the mouth with this brand new style of play that nobody knew how to deal with. The following year, teams knew how to deal with that much better. So forget the Cavs. It's possible some other team straight up, like it's possible they don't beat like the Rockets that in the 2018 year or something like that, or they lose to the Spurs in the 2017 season, right? The 2017 Spurs, like when Kawhi was in, they were already giving the KD Warriors trouble. So forget the Cavs, like they might not have even made the finals the following year. Like they could have, but you know, there's so many things that were changing in the league and other teams adjusting their style, knowing how to guard the Warriors better. taking tips and notes out of the Warriors game plan, like out of the Warriors book, and applying it to their own style play. Yeah, every Warrior has gone on record, every major Warrior saying that they needed KD. Because you can't look at it on a vacuum, which is just like, oh, well, they won 7 games and they barely lost, so like next year they would have won. It's like, no. They were up 3-1. The other team clearly figured some shit out and started adjusting really, really, really hard, right? So they're going into, like, even if they'd won that finals, now you're going to next year with, like, they're not going to be as far ahead of the rest of the league as they were in 2016. Now other teams know how to defend better. They're making adjustments. They're learning how to incorporate Warrior-style gameplay into their own gameplay. The Cavs are much better the next year, right? And now the Cavs have clearly figured out a whole bunch of shit to deal with the Warriors much better. So much changes. All right, guys. I'm going to call the stream here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. But yeah, this is going to be my closing point. JWP, thank you for the final gifted batch of memberships. Holy shit, man. Thank you for the final ones. Let me just read these out real quick. You gifted Sean Easton? The dude just got a promotion. What a great day for him. He's got everything going on. Sean Easton, say thanks. Jacob, Zinc, Baby Morj, and Spike Kirby. Everyone thank JWP. And thanks again, man. Always appreciate you coming through these streams and, like, doing this shit. Seriously, thank you so much. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. Peace.